Hey, what's up, guys? We have Ty Alexander here to talk about his new book that is coming out June 10th, Monstrous. It's about cryptids and the supernatural. So how's it going, Ty? How you doing today?
It's going great. Thank you for having me, Micah.
No problem. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself first, and then we'll go from there?
Yeah, so I'm Ty Alexander. I'm from Southern Ohio. Grew up here my whole life. Just in the creeks and the hills of Southern Ohio, and always been interested in cryptids and the unexplained. Very young age, I was introduced to unsolved mysteries and X Files, and just enamored me in all that stuff. Aliens, paranormal, you name it, just hooked me immediately, and I've always been interested in it. I've always had interest in writing. That's always been a passion of mine. Writing short stories, things like that. So last year, I made it a goal to myself that I was going to write a novel and finish it and publish it. So, lo and behold, this year I'm putting out my first novel.
Cool. Congratulations. I know
Thank
that's
you.
not an easy task to, I mean, I've heard it's hard to write a book, right? No matter, probably no
It
matter what.
is. Yeah, yeah. One thing I always got, 'cause I'm sure if I went through my old Google Drive, I probably have dozens of stories that I had started and not finished. But one of the things I did this time around differently was I'd always find I'd be writing and I'd get to a point where I'd find like a plot hole or, um, maybe some sort of like mistake I'd make in the writing. And it would just throw me off completely. And I'd be like, oh, well, this story's terrible now. There's a plot hole. I gotta ditch it. Or I'd get hung up on it and lose confidence in it. Sorry, hit my mic stand. But so this one of the main things I did this time around was I decided just getting it on the page, like plot holes, all that stuff gets fixed in edits. You when you write a novel, when you finish it, it's not done. It's far from being done. Yeah, I would say that the revision that's coming out that's being published, I'd say it's probably like revision 11 or 12. I mean, I finished it back in December, and even now I'm still in partially editing because I have till about June 1st to finalize my final revision. So I mean, even now, still just picking little things, and I have an editor who's going through and fine tooth combing it, and it's a whole process.
Is it long? Is it like a full length
Yeah, yeah.
novel? Or,
Actually,
yeah.
I can show you. See if it shows up because I know this green screen's a little tricky. Um, is this a video podcast? Is it
This
video
is
or?
video. Is that all
Okay,
right?
yeah, no, that's fine. No, I just want to make
Okay.
sure. So the I got this today. This is the author's proof. So this is what I had to approve. So I mean, it's a full real novel. I mean, it was surreal. I mean, holding this in my hand for the first time. I mean, green screen messing up, but I mean, it's a thick boy. It's
Yeah,
about 300
for sure.
pages. Yeah, it's a full length novel. Labor of love, story I've had in my head, I would say, since I was probably 16 or so when I came up with this idea. So it's been marinating for well over 15 years, I'd say. So it's something that I've had in my head for a long time, and it stuck with me. I mean, no matter what, it was a story that just always stuck with me, and it's crazy that it's the story that out of all the ones I camp with is the one that actually finally put the paper, and it's going to be out for the world to see. So
Yeah. Cool. Well, I mean, as far as plot holes go, I feel like a ton of TV shows and movies have plot holes that are
yeah,
just like glaring, and it's like I'll
oh
be
yeah,
watching a show and it'll have this massive plot hole. And I think that most people don't care, but for me, it's kind of like I don't want any plot holes. You know what I mean?
right.
I know it's normal for TV and movies to have them, especially like fantasy and sci-fi and stuff, but
Mhm.
it's like, come on, like the least you can do is make sure that things make sense in
Absolutely,
this
absolutely.
world. But I
Because
know that probably does take a ton of time because you got to edit it and mess
oh
with it to
yeah,
like make sure. Yeah.
there was a like I said, I there was when I was writing it when I was actually sitting down, I was writing it back in November of last year, and I had kind of told myself like ignore the plot, just write, get the story on the page. So as I was writing, I was like, there's a major plot hole I just passed over, and I would just keep writing, and second revision, fix it, third revision, fix it. My editor got a hold of it, and they went through and was like, here's stuff that I didn't even see. so I was able to go back and fix that. And man, it was but getting on the paper was the main thing because I'd always be writing something at like the fifth or sixth chapter and be like, oh, this doesn't make any sense because of chapter two, and then I would just lose it. It would just I'd just lose all confidence in the story and it'd fall apart. So
Yeah. So as far as like where you live, I don't really know the Ohio area too well, but are you kind of in like a for I'm seeing the picture there, and like kind of like a foresty, kind of almost like a creepy kind of area. Like,
I grew up in an area like that. I live in the city now. I live in Columbus now, so I live in the big city of
okay,
Ohio, our capital. I kind of left the country, and I think I'm just a city boy from now on. I don't think I can go back to the country, but it was yeah. Growing up in the country, it was just you know I lived in about as a middle of nowhere as you can get. Um, a small town didn't even have a stoplight, that kind of thing. Um, one general store, just surrounded by Amish. I mean, that was where I grew up, and we had the cryptid that we had was the grass man. That's what Bigfoot is in Ohio, Southern Ohio. Southern Ohio, we don't have Bigfoot, we have the grass man. And the reason we call him the grass man is because hunters and things like that will find in the like fields, they'll find these like kind of grass mounds. They're like nests. So that was always like, oh, you find something like that's where the grass man lives. My grandma would always tell me, get back in before dark. The grass man will get you. Don't go too far in the woods. The grass man will be out there. That kind of thing. So that was kind of also where I got introduced to the world of cryptids. Is it was like the boogeyman of Southern Ohio is the grass man.
yeah. And so is the grassman supposed to be like almost like identical to Bigfoot, or is it just
Yeah,
your version of it?
it's just Bigfoot, but the reason we call it grassman is because of the nests that you find, or that people will find these like grass, tall weeds that will be kind of folded over into like these kind of like mounds or huts kind of thing. So that's what people will always associate to the grassman. Like they could be deer nests, but it's the grassman is what people say.
Yeah. I mean, does it look exactly like the Bigfoot or like the way it's
Yes.
supposed to look or whatever? Yeah.
Yeah, just shaggier. So I mean, it's been described. The grassman. I guess the defining difference between it is it's described as kind of like a, what ghillie suit is, like what snipers in the military wear.
Yeah.
So like the grassman, when people have seen it, it's described as like looking like a man in a ghillie suit. So it's got hair that's kind of like overgrown and it's kind of mossy and nappy. I mean, it's just kind of like a big hairy mess.
And what do you do for work, if you don't mind me asking?
No, no, you're fine. I work in the airfield industry, so I'm an airfield lighting engineer. So I do a little bit of traveling here and there. So um, it's definitely a job that got me to some places I never thought I'd go. Last year, I got to go to Roswell, New Mexico, which was a dream come true for anyone who's into aliens or the unexplained. Um, Yeah, I mean it's a fun, wild industry. So it's taken me some cool places that I've gotten to kind of check off the bucket list.
So what do you do exactly in the airfield?
So airfield lighting. So I help design the airfield lighting systems for airports. So like you have a big airport. Like what's your big airport where you
The
live?
closest one would be LA. Well, I guess LAX, not the closest one, but the biggest one would be LAX to
Yeah,
me.
LAX. So
Yeah.
we have contracts with them. It's like all the lights in the airfield. So if you look out on a runway, you see all the lights. They're lining the edge, the center, the taxiways, the runways. My company creates those lights, and as an engineer, I design the layout of them. So
Okay, cool. So yeah, as far as cryptids go for me and like supernatural stuff, like I don't really believe in them, but at the same time I'm interested in all of it. I don't really believe in it. I guess mainly for the fact that like I haven't really seen
okay,
any, and I kind of feel like there probably is explanations, I'm assuming, but what about you? Like, do you fully believe in these cryptids, or
I do.
have you seen any?
I guess like this it's kind of a tricky question in a lot of ways because yes, I believe in cryptids, but I think it's more so that I just want to believe in the unexplained. I hate the worst idea to me is that we as a people have just discovered everything, that there's no mystery out there, that science has answered every question, that we've seen everything there is to see, that we've touched everything there is to touch. That to me is like a very bleak idea. I like the idea that there is still a lot out there that we have not seen, that we can't explain everything, that there is these extraordinary things, these extraordinary events that we just as humans have no understanding of. I that to me is just a fascinating idea, and it's a lot more exciting than the idea that we've just done it all, that we know everything now.
Yeah, I feel like that's the thing is I feel like there is a ton that we don't know, like in terms of even like I would say like in terms of like I don't know how familiar you are with like quantum mechanics and stuff like that,
Yeah,
but like or like really any type of physics, and not only physics but like consciousness and stuff. I feel like there is a ton of I totally see what you're saying, and I understand that viewpoint, but I do feel like there is a ton of stuff that we still don't know in terms of even like the mind or something, and like how the
yeah,
mind
oh,
works.
absolutely.
And so yeah, I mean I totally see what you're saying, but I guess kind of like why the cryptids as opposed to kind of like let's figure out um something else we don't know, like what is consciousness, you know what I mean?
Why do we dream? That kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it just I think it's just your interest, I think. Just so what makes you excited, what makes you tick. And to me, what makes me excited is the idea that you're in the middle of uh a lake, and just below your feet is a prehistoric serpent. I mean, that to me is exciting and intriguing and engaging. I'm sure there's people out there like, man, like I would much rather ponder the greater, you know, why do we dream? What do dreams mean? I mean, that stuff. I mean, sure is interesting, but to me, I like the creature aspect, and just that physical aspect of it. I think is what really draws me to cryptids.
Yeah. And have you seen any cryptids or anything really paranormal at all?
So growing up in Ohio, Southern Ohio, where I lived, I have this like memory, and I've kind of not sure if it is or what it is, but I remember I was like in probably fifth or sixth grade, and we had a bus stop, and it was we lived in the middle of nowhere. So it was me and this other boy. We would meet at the bus stop. We were the ones that got picked up there, and it was at the mouth of this road. It was an old, like lumber road, old dirt road, and it was called Frost Road. And you could like look down, you could see like just good ways down this road. It was covered by trees, and there was a cattle pasture. And I remember one morning we were out there, and it was like in the fall, and we turn around, we look down the road, and we see this like black shape come out of the woods, and it walks across the road, and it just steps over the cattle pasture and just walks up into the hills. So that memory's always stuck with me, and it was so far down the road. I mean, it could have been Bigfoot, yes. Could have been some hunter, yes. I mean, could have been nothing because I was in fifth or sixth grade, absolutely. But to me, it's something that always stuck with me. Even now, here I'm 35 years old, and I still have this memory of like turning around, and it wasn't near me by any means. I mean, it was down this road, but you're turning around, seeing this black thing come out of the woods and just step over the cattle fence has always stuck out to me, because growing up on a farm, I know that cow pastures, the fences are not small by any means. I mean, they usually come to your chest, and just seeing this, whatever it was, like step over it and just walk up in the hills, just always stuck with me. But I mean, again, I'm much of a realist as anyone. Sure, I was in fifth or sixth grade. Could it have been just something I imagined? Absolutely.
And then were you with like other kids too that also saw
Yeah,
it?
yeah. My Brandon, he was his name. He was a boy that I waited on the bus with, and yeah, he saw it too. Like we both turned around, we seen it, and it was kind of like, wow, that's very odd that we saw that. Like it was, us being the age we were, like kind of being enamored by it, because we both grew up there. I mean, that was basically our backyard. So we knew how thick the woods were there. We knew how high the cattle fence was. So it definitely was odd.
And have you done any like real life research? Actually, maybe like going to places to maybe try and see some, or even just at home
I've
research.
I've always I researched Bigfoot cryptids. Absolutely. I mean, I mean, I would say it's probably more so my free time. If I'm not hanging out with my partner, or if I'm not out with friends, or if I'm not writing, I'm probably somewhere on some Reddit forum looking at like a Bigfoot sighting from the 1930s or something like that. Something weird that I'm diving into. Um, but yeah, I mean, I've always wanted to go out to the Pacific Northwest. Funny enough, that's where the novel takes place. I've always wanted to go to the Pacific Northwest. That's kind of like the Bigfoot mecca, and just kind of be there. I mean, I went to Roswell, and that was a crazy experience. It was a very cathartic experience to be in this place that I've I've known so much about. To actually be standing there was just an insane feeling, and I would love to go to the Pacific Northwest and just have that same feeling of this place that I've read about and that I've seen in so many documentaries and seen in so many books. Just be standing there. I mean, that would be an amazing experience to me. But then also, going into the woods and maybe doing some wood knocking and seeing if I hear anything come back, that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that it would be really fun to go out and look for one, or even like do like the ghost hunting. Even though I don't really
Yeah.
like necessarily believe in them, I think that it would be fun to go do like the ghost hunting thing and like film it. Because, or even like I've been recently wanting to do kind of like I'm not. I mean, I am into like scary movies, but I'm not super into like I'm not like a super scary movie guy. But I do a lot of filming, and I've been wanting to like do. I don't know if you've seen like there's this Instagram uh page or site or whatever whatever you call the Instagram channel, where like the guy just he's somewhere in like I think it's like South or West Virginia or something, and he just goes to like
Okay.
really creepy places and like films it, like
Oh,
abandoned churches and houses. And I think that would be really fun
mm-hmm.
to
Yeah,
do.
there's a
Like,
lot of that down there.
yeah, like, but like at the same, I think it's really fun, and it's definitely creepy just to like go out somewhere and like walk around at night. Like, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and you definitely get like a vibe or like a sense that like there's something
Oh yeah.
out there. But like, which is I find that pretty interesting. The fact that like I mean, it kind of makes sense. Like there probably really are animals that could kill you out, obviously in the forest, but
Right.
just where like you're kind of like in a situation where like you just feel like there's something around you, is exciting.
I
Um, yeah,
when I was a kid, like teenager, because growing up in Southern Ohio, much like West Virginia, it's this like kind of rural area where at some point, I mean, I think in like the 60s or 70s, it was kind of like a booming area because we are just the area I grew up in was just littered with abandoned houses and um just abandoned buildings like in the woods. You would be kind of in the woods and you would just a lot of times just come across like a cabin or a house that was just in the woods that kind of lost. And that was like an activity me and my friends would do in high school was we'd call it splunking, where we would just go and we just drive around and find these old abandoned places and just go in them like no malicious intent. Like we wouldn't go and like steal anything or like we just would go in them because it was crazy. You would just be out in the middle of these back roads and you would just come across a gigantic like 3-story McMansion that's been abandoned for like 30, 40 years. Like it was nuts. Like we just find this all the time.
yeah, and it's like to film something like that. Like I'm pretty sure like you would just automatically get clicks because it's so creepy just to like go through those things. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Um, and I would love to do that, but like I said, it is scary. I don't really have any like my fiance wouldn't want to go with me, and like I definitely wouldn't be doing it by myself. I'd have to have like at least a couple people,
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
like even though you kind of like know, well, you really don't know. I mean, there really could be some creepy person living in there. Who
Yeah.
knows? Or like an animal, like I said. But for the most part, there is something weird about the fact that like you're constantly in those situations afraid of something something is out there, something maybe even, a cryptid or whatever, some sort of
Oh yeah.
supernatural being. What is it about like the it seems like Bigfoot's obviously the biggest one. What is it about Bigfoot, and I guess maybe some of the like the Yeti too. I think I saw in your thing it was covering the Yeti and Mount Everest, right?
Yeah, it's the Yeti and the Bigfoot are both featured in Monstros. Yep.
Okay. So what is it about those two, or really any of the famous ones, why they've stuck around? I mean, like to me, the problem with the Bigfoot one, and that's like probably the main one that I guess that I really know about, because that's probably the biggest one here in America,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
is it kind of just looks like either like it kind of looks like a cross between like maybe like a bear and a man.
Uh-huh.
And so I would think that maybe somebody thought they saw like a Bigfoot, but really it was just like, like a I wouldn't say a giant man, but like maybe it was like a couldn't you get it mixed up, especially like at night
Oh
or at night
yeah. Because I
with like a
mean,
bear or something.
bear can stand up on their hind legs. Like that's something they can do. So I mean that to me is very plausible. Of course, seeing a man, I mean that's plausible too, because you could have people hoaxing. I mean, not too long ago there was a story that was pretty big where this guy got killed. He was trying to do like a Bigfoot prank where he dressed up in a monkey suit and was like running across the road to like scare motorists, and he ended up getting like clipped and died from it. So I mean, you have people that are actively trying to trick people into thinking they saw these things. So I mean, that to me is plausible. I mean, you have to wonder like how many people have think they've seen a Bigfoot and truly believe they've saw one because of what they saw, but really it could be just they were the victim of a prank or something like that, some sort of hoax. But the thing that's always got me about Sasquatch is just the history of it, because I think people mistaken the Bigfoot for like us, you know, white Anglo-Saxons, coming here and we colonized America, and then we started talking about this Bigfoot thing. But that's not accurate. Bigfoot has been around for centuries. I mean, the Native Americans have ancient legends of these things. And I mean, it goes back like hundreds and hundreds of years before we even settled here. And not only do we have these Native American legends of these Sasquatch creatures, but every continent has a Sasquatch legend. Like there are ancient civilizations that talk about these things all over the world. Now, this is pre-internet, so it wasn't like someone saw a Reddit post and decided to spread this around their neighborhood. This is things that were these landlocked countries and continents have these legends of these big, hairy, you know, ape-like creatures roaming the woods. I mean, that to me is so interesting, because how are these legends spread this far to these different civilizations in that time period when there wasn't just actively newsletters or people traveling back and forth.
Yeah, because the Yeti is similar to Bigfoot, right? I mean,
Yeah,
is that kind of like one that would be very similar to Bigfoot, what you're talking about?
that's kind of the idea. Yeah, the most descriptions of the Bigfoot and the Yeti are basically like, brown haired Bigfoot, white haired Yeti. Like that's basically like the distinguishing features of them. One lives in the snow, one lives in the forest. But yeah, they're very similar. There are a lot of stuff. There's various different things, because you can kind of look at the way different cultures view these creatures. Um, the Native Americans, it varies throughout the United States. You have some tribes who kind of see these as like guardians and protectors of Mother Nature, and these benevolent beings who are just peaceful, kind of the earth. Then you have some tribes who talk about these things as being like, um, there are some out east here. I know in Pennsylvania, it's called the rock. They're called the rock apes. Was what the tribe was called, but it was this Native American tribe talked about these rock apes that are rock men, I think what they were called to them, but they were the rock men, and they were basically Bigfoot like creatures who would like actively hunt these Native Americans and eat their heads. That's what they would do. Like they would find these Native American warriors with their heads gone, and that was the rock men came and got them and bit their heads off. Like it varies. You have these different takes on them. Um, it often seems that out west coast, um, Bigfoot is viewed as much more of this like peaceful type creature. When you go down south here in the southern United States, it's more of a aggressive kind of like Neanderthal, rage beast type creature. Out east, you have a more like smart but kind of sadistic type creature where it hunts and it preys on people. So it's very interesting, these different variations, but it all comes back to the same creature. It's like the same entity that they're talking about, but just differently. And that goes same for across the globe. I mean, you have talking about the Yeti in the Himalayas. There's a lot of different legends with it having like these supernatural abilities like regeneration and infrasound and all these different, abilities that it has that maybe the creatures here in America don't have. Just super interesting when you start reading about these things. But it to me all comes back to these civilizations and these tribes having this same entity in their stories.
Yeah, I find that interesting, and even with like the different cultures outside of America, like I guess I did a YouTube video. I've done a YouTube video on the Yeti and then on the Mothman, which is also another interesting one, right?
Yeah.
And then the Jinn, like how um Arabia, I guess, like the Middle East would have,
Yes.
and I think that it might even be Asia too, right? Would have the
Yeah.
Jinn, and then we have for the most part Bigfoot, and then I think is the Loch Ness monster that's like either England or Ireland, right?
That's Scotland. Yeah.
Scotland, and
Yeah.
then each kind of culture has its own thing. Like I don't, for the most part, right? I don't think that they're
Yeah.
like really seeing Bigfoot in outside of America. They're not really seeing. We're not really seeing gins in America or whatever. Um, I think that's pretty interesting. I mean, I would kind of assume that just to be kind of like a non-believer or whatever, I would just kind of assume that like each culture kind of has its own um what would you call them in terms of like a philosophical scientific thing? It would be almost like an archetype or something, or
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
a
Like archetype. Yeah.
or like a meme or whatever, like where
I'd say archetype. Yeah. I like archetype. Yeah.
do you know the word meme though? Not
Oh
like
yeah.
a
Yeah.
not like meme like not like meme like a joking picture, but like
Okay.
there's I think that Richard Dawkins, I don't know if you know about Richard Dawkins at all,
Oh
but
yeah. I
yeah,
know.
he came up with like the meme, which is like similar to the archetype.
Okay.
Um, so maybe I'm like maybe it's something like that where there's something in our DNA or in our like psychology or even like ancestral memory or something that like
Uh huh.
keeps kind of like reappearing or even just in storytelling really.
Yeah.
Or it could just be legit. I mean, there's also one thing that I kind of find interesting is like if in terms of more of like a scientific kind of like multiverse type thing, how like they're saying now that like we're living like there is multiverses or whatever.
Mhm.
So it's like some
Yeah.
people think like they could be seeing something like when they see an alien or a UFO or whatever it is that you're seeing, it could be almost like coming from like a different dimension type
Yeah.
thing. Do you believe in that at all, or do you think that they're just real? These are
Well,
just real entities who live here in
it's
our.
very interesting. There's a documentary I watched. I believe it's on Prime or Tubi, one of those two, and it's called A Flash of Beauty, and it is a Bigfoot documentary, but it explores like the paranormal aspects of Bigfoot because there are, funnily enough, a lot of people who believe that Bigfoot isn't like a solid creature in our reality. That what we're seeing when we see this creature is we're seeing like a slip between dimensions. And there are a lot of people who have these experiences where they see Bigfoot and they'll report things like um, electronics malfunctioning, or they'll see like these orbs or these kind of strange electrical activity. And people even talk about seeing just like straight up portals that these things walk in and out of. Um, Even in some of the Native American legends, there are like implications that the Bigfoot creatures have the ability to kind of step in and out of our reality. So that's very interesting that you bring that up, because yeah, that is kind of one of the theories or the ideas that people do have about Bigfoot.
And would you say that you believe that theory more than maybe like that the Bigfoot is just really here in our dimension? We're just not
I
we like
feel
capable
like
to like kind of actually view it on a regular basis, you know?
I feel like there is definitely some belief there, because there was also in that same documentary there was kind of like the idea of like maybe that whenever, because people have said that they've seen Bigfoot and they go to take a picture or they take a video and it's just not there. Like they pull out their phone, they take a picture, or their phone messes up or their camera messes up. I mean, that to me could be a good explanation as to why we don't, as technology has increased, you would expect the amount of evidence for these creatures to be more evident, because everyone, I mean, anytime anything interesting happens, the first thing people do is pull their phones out. I mean, that, car
Yeah.
crash or, whatever it may be, someone pulls their phone out. And you'd have to think, if you're walking in the woods and you see this giant bipedal, uh, you know, primate walking in the woods, the first thing you're gonna do is pull out your phone. But what if you were to pull out your phone and it messed up? I mean, would you probably even question the reality at that point even? And did I even really see that? So yeah, I definitely do have some belief there, but I like to believe when it comes to Bigfoot, I see him as more of this intelligent animal, like a creature, kind of on par with us. Not as smart as us, but I do think that it is a highly intelligent creature that is far more advanced than what we give animals the credit for being. And I think it actively avoids humans because it's intelligent enough to see how we handle our interactions with other creatures. And I don't think humans as a species have a very good track record for how well we behave when we interact with another creature. And I feel like the Bigfoot, being a more advanced animal, would probably see that and actively avoid us. Is my kind of my idea.
Yeah. The only problem with that is if they are so like intelligent or advanced, like what are they kind of like doing with their like what are they doing with their intelligence but besides kind of like avoiding us? Like there are
Yeah,
like um you know what I mean? Like I mean some people I don't even really know what the answer could be to that, but like what are they doing? Like you know what I mean with their intelligence just kind of hiding out in the woods from us.
right. I mean,
You
that's
know
a
what
good
I
point. That's a good
mean?
point. Yeah, I mean, you definitely have a good point there. You kind of stumped
I
me on
mean
that one.
some people really might say that well, I mean, there's a couple different ways you could go with this, which is one, they are intelligent, but like native, or it kind of sounds bad, but like I've asked a question about Native Americans where they as intelligent as when I was younger, I asked that question, not as intelligent as us, but why haven't they built as much as us? And it's like because they maybe because they don't want to. You know what I mean? Like they
Yeah,
see
yeah.
the white man essentially ruining, destroying like the environment and everything. Maybe it's the same thing as the Bigfoot, whereas
I
they don't
definitely could
want to
see that. Yeah,
do what we're doing. They'd rather just live in the woods. But then there's also, I mean, I don't think I've ever heard this theory of it would be, like they're living underground or something like that, or like
yeah,
they have some
yeah.
sort of like crazy sophisticated way of living. We just don't know about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We just
I
kind
mean,
of catch them as they pop up, and they're like come back down. They have like a city and stuff. Yeah, I
yeah.
like
Well, I
that.
mean, there are theories about that with like, isn't it like lizard people or something, or like
Yeah.
is that the one where it's like they're like literally living some people believe there are like
Yes.
entities living underground, right? So
Yeah.
I've
There's a
never
lot of
heard that
that
with
around.
Bigfoot,
A
but
lot of that around Mount Shasta out west. Um, that's kind of a big thing. Mount Shasta. There's a lot of like theories that there are like highly advanced ancient civilizations like living underneath Mount Shasta, because
yeah,
Mount Shasta has some wild, even like even if you take a step back and you're as a skeptic, you take a step back and you just look at things that happen in near Mount Shasta. I mean, it is very odd anomalous things that happen there. Very weird weather patterns. A lot of people go missing there. Just these weird things that even as a if you weren't to believe in supernatural paranormal, you still have to say like, wow, that is a very odd place. But yeah, there are like theories that people have stumbled across, like entrances to these civilizations on Mount Shasta, which Mount Shasta also has like a very high concentration of Bigfoot sightings. So maybe you're onto something there. Maybe Bigfoot is living in this advanced civilization underneath Mount Shasta. But I like the first concept you brought up with because that would be the best way I'd articulate it is they're intelligent enough not to do what we're doing. I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't necessarily like a lot of things. I wish we hadn't invented Microsoft Word. I don't want to look at Excel every day, but I have to. And
Yeah.
maybe Bigfoot's smart enough to know, like, hey, I don't want to have to do my taxes, so
Yeah.
I'm not gonna follow that line. So yeah, I think they're smart enough not to. And if you read a lot of the Native American legends, I mean, Bigfoot or these Sasquatch type creatures, they're basically entities that maintain the balance of nature. And I don't think we as a species do that very well. So it just isn't in their DNA, I guess, to do what we're doing. They're just there to maintain what is left of nature.
Yeah, I think that really most animals are probably pretty much all animals are doing that besides us, right? It's like
Yeah.
they're all kind of just maintaining nature in the most natural way, and we're the only ones who are have somehow kind of like gone outside of that by
Mm.
I don't think there's any other animal that's destroying nature, right?
No.
Um, what do you think they're doing in terms of well, I mean, for like, how many do you think there are? Like, what do you think they're doing?
So
You know?
I would have to say if I think Dr. Meldrum, Jeff Meldrum, he's kind of like the Bigfoot guy. He's like an academic. He's not the like quintessential cryptozoology is the study of, creatures that have not yet been proven by science. So, uh Dr. Jeff Meldrum is an academic. I think he is a professor in either Washington State or California State. He's a very prominent academic, and he specializes in Bigfoot. I mean, he's like the foremost figure in Bigfoot. And I think he had theorized there's something like less than 10,000 like in the US, and that it is, it should be considered an endangered species, which in Washington State it is. And Washington
Oh
State
wow.
recognizes Bigfoot as an endangered species, so it's illegal to hunt or kill a Bigfoot in Washington State. Um,
I mean, has there ever been like for one, does Washington State like it seems like you would have to like prove the existence of a species before you could say it's an endangered species, right?
right. Well, I think a lot of there is kind of marketing on their part, though. I mean, because that's kind of what
Marketing.
they're known for is like Bigfoot. So, I mean, I think that was kind of like a kind of tongue in cheek marketing ploy.
Yeah, that and then also just don't if you see one, don't shoot at it, or even if it's potentially a person masquerading as one, like don't
That
kill it.
too, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, he's theorizing something like less than 10,000 because, as we have kind of colonized the United States, we've kind of, probably pushed them to extinction. I mean, without even knowing it, like we've done with, various species. Kind of, isolated them and, killed out populations and tribes and things like that just by, industrialization. So, I definitely think that we're probably if if Bigfoot is a reality, it's probably not a thriving population. I don't think that it's probably got much longer left that it would share the earth with us. I think that it's probably a species that if it's probably on the verge of being just forgotten and probably left to be just this unknown species because I think we've pushed them probably to the brink of extinction.
Yeah, it just seems like if they really did exist, then like I would want like I would want to know about them, and I would assume there would be a ton of people who would want
Mhm.
to be able to like find them and prove them, obviously. So like why do you think we haven't been able to do that? Like do you think there's any type of also like I don't know if there's any like conspiratorial angle to it where like
Yeah.
people do know about them, but like they intentionally try and pretend like they don't exist, or
So, President Theodore Roosevelt, he is responsible for creating the National Park Service. So Teddy Roosevelt, when he got in office, he created the National Park Service and designated all these large, um, large rural areas to be protected sanctuaries. Um, Funnily enough, Teddy Roosevelt also has experiences with Bigfoot. His book is he's got I think 3 or 4 different experiences with Bigfoot that he has in his book, his autobiography, that he's encountered these creatures while hunting. Teddy Roosevelt was a real man's man out in the nature, constantly hunting, and he's claimed that he's been in the presence and been kind of stalked by these things before. So, but the theory is that him setting up these national parks was basically the government's way of preserving these populations of these unclassified hominids, these primates. And there's a lot of different theories as to why. One is that evolution. That's a big one. Um, not to be not to assume anyone's like beliefs or like that, but I mean, the fear is if you ever look at the very iconic evolution chart, showing how we came to be in the evolutionary chain, there is kind of this leap that takes place. You see it as you have the monkey coming to the man. You see this like leap at one point where it's like just becomes a man. So the idea is, and a lot of people will call Bigfoot the missing link. That's kind of like one of the terms for Bigfoot is the missing link, because people presume that this thing, is the way it appears and the way it's been photographed and videotaped, is so much of this cross between a man and an ape that it is that it's that filler, it's that gap that's left out of that chart. So the idea is that this one nation under God, United States, that this creature would kind of disrupt the Christian belief system, because it would be the I guess the nail in the coffin, so to speak. That this would be the definitive. It's evolution. Evolution's real. So that is kind of the theory, is that the government as actively covering this up because of the ramifications it would have.
and do you believe in evolution or are you
I
like
do, I do,
religious
yeah.
or
No,
yeah.
I'm an evolutionist, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that's very interesting. So I mean, I I could see that being a plausible, um, I guess a plausible explanation. But there are, even if you look on like in the biblical sense, have you ever heard the term Nephilim?
Yeah, I actually think that I did.
Yeah, so
Or Anunnaki.
Nephilim,
I think Anunnaki.
yeah,
Yeah. 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 So isn't
so
that the same thing? The similar thing?
yeah,
Yeah.
so Nephilim are supposedly the uh the offspring of man and angel, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
An angel bred with a man and created the Nephilim. So there is a theory that the Bigfoot creatures we're seeing, because they would have created giants, is what the offspring would have been, because angels are seen as these like giant creatures in comparison to us. So the idea is that these Bigfoot, or these creatures that we're seeing, are Nephilim. They're these cross between angel and man. So that's another reason for the cover up. A lot of interesting stuff you can get in if you really start diving into the Bigfoot lore. There's I put it the other day. I was on a podcast and I was talking, and I was like, Bigfoot lore is so much more than just a big ape in the woods. There's really a flavor of ice cream for everyone. Like you can find whatever fringe belief you want, and you can probably find a link to Bigfoot somewhere in it.
Yeah. I mean, do you think there would be a way to like cover it up if like it seems like it would be really hard to cover it up if they are just out in nature? Like, how would we? I mean, it's the same thing with the aliens. They kind of, to a certain extent, feel like if they're out there, like people would just see them and they would film them or whatever. How
Mhm.
would the government, whoever is trying to cover them up, keep them from kind
So
of like being seen or at least kind of proven or whatever? You know what I mean?
so if you have you ever been to like one of the nation like a national park?
Yeah,
Like they are massive. Like they're
yeah,
like I would dare say that a majority of most national parks are probably untouched by man because they're so massive. I mean, I can't imagine that every part of a national park has been explored. Because there's whole planes that go missing in those in national parks. I mean, there's planes that crash in these things and just never get found. People go missing all the time. There is David Politis. He is a former FBI agent, and he created this program called the Missing 411. Have you ever heard of that?
no, I don't think so.
So the Missing 411 is this program he started because he started finding out about in these national parks have like a insane amount of missing people go missing in national parks on a yearly basis. I mean, not just like every now and then someone goes missing. Like on a yearly basis, people just go missing in these national parks. And the National Park
It's
Service,
crazy, really. I mean, it's
yeah,
like you would think that it would be like one of the most safest places to be, but
right, you
yeah,
would think.
yeah.
But no, like people go missing on a yearly basis in these national parks. And up until David Politis began to archive it, the National Park Service did not keep a record of missing people in the national parks or in national parks. It wasn't a thing the government tracked. It wasn't a thing that national park did not have like a database of who went missing. And they have a very standardized procedure of when someone goes missing, they basically send out the dog, they send out a team, they do it for like 3 or 4 days, and that's it. They call it. So he began looking into this and just finding that there's this huge number of people that go missing in these giant, forest preserves. And he started out just by doing this missing person thing. And he is over the years developed the idea that these people are not going missing, they're being taken. That there's something in these parks that's taking people because some of the missing 411s are insane. Like you read them and they're real like documented stories. They're not like hearsay and conjecture. But you'll have stories where like people are walking together and they're talking and they come around a bend, they turn around and their friend is just gone. And that's the missing person. They never find them. They never find any trace of them. Kids will go missing. Literally, their parents turn their head and turn back around. Their kid's gone. They're never found again. Um, just insane stories. So his theory is that over time he developed this theory that there's no way for these people just to go missing. There's no way you're talking to your friend and they just go missing. They just get lost as you're walking down a trail. A commercial hiking trail. And he developed the idea that there's something in these woods that's just actively taking people.
Yeah, that's crazy to think about. I mean, supposedly there is a lot of like serial killers too, and because I
Yes.
listen to a good amount of like true crime, and my fiance actually listens to one about that. Like, there's serial like killings in the national parks or
Mhm.
whatever.
Yeah.
Um, not saying that that's all of it, but
And definitely, I mean, I think that could be a majority of it. I mean,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
um,
for
like I
sure. And
said,
I'm not even, yeah, I wasn't, but that's interesting too. That like there's so many, it almost seems like a really weird place to go if you're a serial killer, but then at the same time, like you said, there's so much
mhm,
area
absolutely.
that like hasn't been explored. And not only that, but then there's also a lot of people.
Mhm.
um and then oh yeah, and then like me and my fiance were going to Yosemite, and we stopped. I don't know if you've ever been to Yosemite or have,
No,
probably
I
not.
wanna
Yeah,
go to Yosemite, yeah.
yeah,
I'd love to go there.
Yosemite's great, but like we were going in and we stopped at this rant, like, well, I mean, first of all, like just driving in, if you go in kind of like the back way, I think it's like the less maybe accessible way, like throughout winter, and after winter it's like closed down, it's only open like half of the year or whatever. But we went in that way, and we it's a long kind of drive, which gets shut down because of the snow and the cliffs cliff slides or whatever. And there's just ton of area to, and this is like a lot of the park. Like there's just a massive just drop off to the left of where you're driving. And
Okay.
it's like if you swerve at all, you're off. And then we stopped somewhere. We stopped at like an overlook point, and there was like no rail. I'm not trying to like say that this is the reason, but obviously they
No,
would
I
just
mean, no, I
they
get
would
it.
find these people. But it's just crazy. Like we stopped at this like overlook point. There was no rail, and there looked like there was some kind of almost like climbing, like kind of like metal clamps that you could almost like just like go down and like climb down or whatever, but it like made no sense because it was like it's just a massive drop off. And I could just see some random person being like, I'm just gonna go and try and or maybe not even or maybe go at night and like just walk off the edge. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
absolutely,
crazy.
absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm not really trying to like say that's what's going on. I'm just saying
It's a
it's kind of a
possibility.
crazy place in general. But yeah, what you're saying does make sense. Like, where do all these people go? Um, yeah,
And
I don't
what
know.
what
Yeah,
what always stuck out to me was missing 411 is like just the lack of like I guess urgency or seriousness that was kind of that's something David Polias talks about too is like a lot of times when he investigates these like he gets a lot of pushback from the National Park Service um
like
on these.
they don't want like the problem or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah, and I mean he's also said it's because they don't want people not to come to these things because it's a huge source of revenue for the United States. I mean, the National Park Service is huge for us. So I mean, I know a lot of parks suffered when COVID hit because people weren't going to them, and I mean they don't want that to happen. So if there is something in there taking them, I mean they would want to kind of hide that as much as possible. Um, the other kind of explanation for Bigfoot. Apologize. Another thing that Bigfoot has kind of been theorized as is not just like a primate or like this lost missing link, is that it could just be like feral people. That's something that people have talked about is like just feral people who have just went to the woods and just gone animalistic, and they're just in the woods, dirty, unkempt, unshaven, just in the woods as these like
yeah,
kind of like wild men is what is the term, the wild men. And that's a big thing in like not West Virginia, Tennessee. They have Bigfoot, but they also have the wild men, and that is what a lot of people equate the missing people to, is these like just cannibalistic, animalistic people in the woods just taking people. And there's a very interesting episode of you ever seen American Horror Stories?
yeah. Some of them.
They have well they have an anthology. There's American Horror Stories in the main show. Then they have an anthology series called American Horror Stories.
Yeah,
And in the first season of that, there's an episode called I think it's called Missing, or it might be called Feral. But it's about that. It's about a kid that goes missing in the woods. Years later, his parents find like evidence that he's still alive. They go into the woods and they basically discover that he was taken and kind of acclimated to this feral tribe of cannibals. So very interesting stuff there. I kind of buy into that because I know there are like documented stories of that from like the early 1900s and late 1800s of people just doing that, going in the woods and becoming animals. I mean, that's something that people were kind of a lot of people did that in like the early 1900s, especially after the
yeah,
Civil War. After the Civil War, there was a lot of people who were displaced, and they just kind of or like traumatized by war and just went into the woods and just never came out, and they just turned into animals.
yeah. I mean, that's very interesting to me. That's an interesting take on it. That like I would want to say is more believable almost because the only thing that I would say that like maybe disproves it is the fact that aren't most Bigfoot that people see like really tall.
Yeah, yeah.
So what would
Uh,
how would you explain that?
well, I would have to say, I would probably say like, one of the things that I would have to believe is happening if there are these like populations of like feral people in the woods. Um, I would have to say there's probably a lot of inbreeding that takes place, and one of the things that happens with inbreeding is deformities and like very odd shapes and sizes. I mean, there I know, like for instance, like dogs when they're inbreed, they can grow larger, because their bodies are all fucked up. Their bone structure isn't the same. So I mean, I can see that being depending on how far the inbreeding goes. I mean, I'd imagine like eventually you'd become pretty monstrous.
Yeah. I remember my friend telling me that there's a ton, I don't think they're necessarily like feral people, but he was telling me how a bunch of people, like regular people, will just go to live in national parks like Yosemite, but like way kind of like you were saying, it's so big, like way deep
Oh
into
yeah,
the forest and just live out there, and then they can always just go into the camp or whatever to get food
yeah,
and then go back out. It doesn't really seem like, I mean, obviously, like I wouldn't want to live in the woods. I wouldn't want to live like that. But like going back to what we were saying about like the Native Americans and you not really wanting to produce all this stuff. Like, do you actually think that we'd be, or you would be, maybe you? It's kind of like a personal question, but you would be
yeah.
better off, or we'd be better off, kind of actually living like we used to hundreds of years ago, or do you think we're better off now? But I mean, like someone like you, it's you have a good you know job. You have a good what are they? What's the I'm forgetting the name of like your job title, but
Airfield engineer.
engineer, exactly. You have a good
Yeah,
engineering job. Like I'm
yeah,
assuming that like you're good with computers. You know what I mean? But at the same time, like you don't really like them. Like you didn't even almost
yeah.
want Microsoft Word to
No, I
be
hate Excel. I hate Excel.
Excel. So it's like, would you almost legitimately think that it could be better, like living kind of like off the grid?
Well, I mean, I don't know, because I mean, you gotta think too in like the early like 1900s, 1800s, back before like medicine and things like that. I mean, well, like the average life expectancy was like your 40s or your 50s, I think, is like the
Yeah.
longest people live, because you get like a cut on your finger and you're pretty much dead at that point. So I mean, like,
Yeah.
I don't know if like that is the if I don't know if we would be happier, but I think a lot of other creatures would be a lot happier if we didn't decide to start industrializing and things like that. So I think it's kind of a double-edged sword where I'm sure we're a lot happier now. Um, albeit we have to deal with the bullshit like, paying bills and taxes and, you know, uh, dealing with like the constant onslaught of social media and, politics and things like that. I mean, I'm sure it would be beneficial for us not to have to deal with that. But I mean, I think we're a lot safer now with a nice roof over our head and sustainable lifestyles and the quality of life we have. I'm sure we're a lot happier there, but I feel like there's probably a lot of I think Earth would probably benefit if we didn't take that route as well. Because I mean, I think we've done irreversible damage to just our world. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, I think it's double edged sword there. Would
Yeah.
would we be happier? Probably, but would we be comfortable? No.
Yeah. It's kind of funny, comfortability versus happiness. Like we would
Yeah.
be happier. We would also probably live shorter lives, but
Hmm.
we'd be happier, but be less comfortable. But it's like, I think most people say that like when they go live, or most people say when they, like, I definitely don't think I could even survive at this point in the
I
woods.
don't either. I don't either.
But like when I go to a national park or when I go out to nature, like you definitely feel better and you kind of wonder if I just stayed there, like could this like would this last, or is this just
Yeah.
because I'm on vacation here? Um and yeah. And then I remember, the we're kind of getting off the topic here, but the whole Ted Kaczynski thing,
Yeah.
the Unabomber, where like he went
Yeah.
out to live in like the woods, and I listened to a podcast on him a little while ago, and his brother was saying how like when he like his brother, it's really interesting to me, like all this type of stuff, but like his brother and him, I guess, were both kind of like anti-technology, and so his
Yeah.
brother went to go live. At some point, he was like literally living like in the desert. It sounded like he just had like kind of like a hole in the ground, and like,
Damn.
which to me just sounds awful. It's like if you're gonna
Yeah.
live somewhere, at least make it the woods or something. But then he was saying how his brother, the Unabomber, Jake Kaczynski, said how he was like out in nature, like he wasn't afraid to die. And I thought that was like really interesting. Like when you're out in nature, like you just really feel one with nature, and like
Yeah.
you're just so part of nature that like nothing really bothers you. And I feel like living the way that we are now, like it seems like so much stuff kind of bothers us. And yeah,
Yeah,
I
because I
I
mean,
find that really interesting.
living that life, I mean, you basically just have to like get up in the morning and make sure you find something to eat that day. Like that's your biggest concern is like you need to you wake up, don't get killed by some animal, and at the same time, find a fish or something or a squirrel to make sure you eat that day. Um, Rather than, waking up and checking your email and making sure you meet some kind of bullshit corporate deadline. I mean, or finding out you check your email and you're overdue on a bill. I mean, um, you know, or you wake up and you see a picture of your ex with someone online. I mean, I mean, I'm sure like a lot of people would probably take the idea of biggest concern being to get them trying to snare a squirrel that day than having to worry about a lot of the stuff we have to worry about today.
Yeah, but like at the same time, the idea of that does come across boring and
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
uncomfortable. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
Like you wake
Where are
up
my
and you're
damn
like,
Blu-rays? Yeah.
yeah, like you wake up and you're just like, got to go find an animal to kill and then eat that animal and then you know what? But it's a double-edged sword. But so
Yeah.
yeah, we covered Bigfoot. I do find that thing of the feral people being pretty interesting, and I think that would be worth checking out. Yeah, I
There's a
had a
lot of good story. Like I said, if you look into a lot of stuff, Tennessee has a lot of lore about that. So if you look into like the state of Tennessee, you'll find a lot of stuff about that.
yeah. Okay. And then I had actually a guy on who had at one point and a little bit still he had like um what do you call it? I guess it would be considered schizophrenia, but I don't think he like really believed that he had, schizophrenia. I think that he really kind of believed that he was like hearing voices. He was saying the voices. I think he said the voices were, I forgot his exact terminology, but they weren't him, but I forgot. But basically, he was saying that the voices in his head were saying things that he wouldn't know. So I think
Hmm.
he really kind of thought that it was like coming from
Somewhere else.
either another dimension or
Okay.
somewhere else. And a lot of people believe this type of stuff. And he also said that he saw like orbs,
Okay.
white orbs coming to him, almost like UFOs. And at that, I questioned him on that. I was like, because at one point he realized that he was seeing like visions were coming to him, but I was like, these visions of the orbs. What do you think is going on there, or whatever? He's like, they weren't visions. Like he's like, I really these orbs were coming to me, and he could see them not too far off. Um. So, oh yeah, and like obviously, like the normal, not the rational person, but like the normal scientist or psychologist would just say, oh, he has schizophrenia, and
Right.
this is all within his brain or whatever. But I kind of thought it would be really interesting to actually kind of figure out if there is something else going on besides just
Yeah.
saying this is all just his own imagination.
There is a very interesting story. I covered it on my podcast called Talk Conspiracy. Of this man, his name was Richard Shaver, and I believe it was in the 40s or the 50s. But there was a magazine company owned by this man named Ray Palmer, and he owned these very popular science fiction kind of like fringe magazines, like Fate magazine, which is one of the first magazines to report on like UFO sightings in the United States. Otherworld magazine, Strange, I think it was like Strange Tales, thanks to the magazine as well. But these like kind of like pulpy, sci-fi magazines are really popular at the time, and they're all owned by this guy named Ray Palmer. And this guy Richard Shaver, um, who by a lot of people who knew him account had just these like mental issues. He was a very mentally unwell person, and he ended up getting these visions he had. And it's interesting we talk about Mount Shasta because it's a huge part of his lore. And he was beginning to hear voices and see visions, and he basically ended up creating this universe, kind of this whole like story, that he says was basically telepathically beamed into his head. And I think it even started by he was a welder, and the welding gun he was using, like the sound, if you ever used a welder, the sound it was emitting is kind of what sparked it in his head. Like he started to believe that the sounds were kind of like beaming something into his head. And he developed this whole concept of the Lemurians. And Lemurians were this ancient civilization who went to war with Atlantis, and their kingdom was destroyed, and they ended up burrowing inside of Mount Shasta and like living there. And they create this whole world underneath the earth, this hollow earth, basically. And they were coming up, and they would kidnap women to take them down the breed. They had these cyborgs. I think it was the Delos and the Telos. What it was the Telos? I think were the people, like the creatures, and the Delos were these like cyborg robot things that did their bidding. And this whole like kind of like sci-fi thing he made, and this Ray Palmer guy was basically like having him just like churn this shit out in his magazines. Like it was like front page shit, for his magazine. They were called the Shaver Mysteries, is what they became known as, because this guy was just writing all this stuff. And it became this very interesting study on, a lot of people think that this Ray Palmer guy he found someone who had schizophrenia, and he was just actively exploiting them for gain. Like just having them just put all their stuff in print, and he was selling it, making bank. They were super popular. Any magazine that had Richard Shaver's name on it, people just flocked to because of the pure insanity that it had in it. But a lot of people ended up buying into it and believing it. And that's, Mount Shasta, that's part of the Mount Shasta lore, is these Lemurians. But yeah, it made me think of that, because I mean it's a very interesting thing that people talk about, is like, was this Ray Palmer guy just actively like knowingly exploiting this guy with schizophrenia just for financial gain?
But didn't you say that he had it himself? How, like, what? Why can't we just believe that maybe he was just the one with schizophrenia?
Well, yeah, Richard Shaver is the one. Like he was. That's what people believe, is that a lot of people near him claim he has schizophrenia. Like, he was very mentally unwell. But the idea is that Ray Palmer knowingly knew this guy had schizophrenia and was just exploiting him. He would feed him, like, kind of egg him on to get these stories out of him just to sell and make money. Was what
But I mean, why was that the story as opposed to just him? Like, why did people not believe that it was just him with schizophrenia as opposed to somebody else he was exploiting?
I guess I don't understand that question.
Like, so people think that he was exploiting someone with schizophrenia to get the ideas, but why do people believe that as opposed to just Richard Shaver was the one with schizophrenia?
No, that's what they believe. Yeah, Richard Shaver. Yeah, they believe he had it. Ray Palmer was the magazine owner who
Oh,
was getting.
oh,
Yeah, yeah,
oh, okay, sorry.
yeah,
So Ray Palmer, they think that he was getting it from Richard Shaver.
yeah. He was getting it from Richard Shaver, and just kind of putting it in his magazines and exploiting him to, just exploiting Richard Shaver, a man who a lot of people believe was just schizophrenic. And he's very
Oh,
mentally unwell. Like
wow.
he ended up dying like years, like alone, broke, um, just kind of lived as like a vagrant. And kind of Ray Palmer would just kind of like come into his life, get stories out of him, leave. Then once like the magazine sales started dropping, he'd find him, get more shit out of him, leave, make money. Just it was kind of this vicious cycle.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, Richard Shavers ended up like he just he died alone, died poor, kind of in like I think he died in like a like a homeless shelter or something like that. So I mean, he was super mentally unwell, couldn't hold a job. He was just kind of a very mentally unwell man. But Ray Palmer, this magazine publisher, just kind of milked it. Never got him help, never offered help, just kind of fed into his delusions just to make money. So it is a very interesting study on that.
Wow.
But then again, a lot of people have believe these to be real. A lot of people believe that Richard Shaver was actually getting these messages. Like he was actually a conduit for this lost civilization. A lot of people do believe that, but
Yeah.
it's a very interesting case study.
Yeah. And I have heard that too about like Nikolai Tesla, I think. And there's another guy that I'm forgetting his name now. He's a really popular like sci-fi writer from like the 50s probably. And supposedly he was similar where he was getting these, I think they think that he was schizophrenic or something, and
Mhm.
he was writing his sci-fi was like literally kind of being like almost like transmitted to him. Um I wish I could remember his name. But there's a good amount of people that throughout history where it's like they get their ideas from somewhere else kind of thing,
Yeah.
like almost their ideas are transmitted to them. But I mean, it just seems like with like the Mount Shasta thing and like a lot of this stuff, it just seems like why hasn't anybody like gone there and like tried to
I
figure out if there
remember
is people living underground or whatever, you know what I mean?
I remember there's a story with Mount Shasta, like a very popular one. I can't remember all the details. I know I covered it in one of the episodes that we don't call Talk Conspiracy because we had like a Mount Shasta like trilogy we did because there was just so much about Mount Shasta. But there was a guy who claimed like he was a caver, and he found a cave system, just followed it, kept going deeper and deeper, and he was talking about how as he went deeper, where you would expect the cavern to get smaller, it was actually like getting wider and wider. And he talks about how he like talked about how like he eventually got to this area where there was like giant chairs and giant furniture, like there was like giant doors, things like this, and all these like valuables, like giant diamonds, things like this. And he started, I think he heard like voices or heard like rumbling like steps, so he got out of there, and he goes and he tells his story to everyone he can, and finally like this newspaper is like, take us there, we'll give you X amount of money, let's do it. And of course he takes the newspaper back, the reporters, and he of course can't find the cave anymore. He claims that it was there, it wasn't there now, that it disappeared, that kind of thing. So you have stories like that that come out where people just claim that they have seen it, like there's some sort of like some sort of advanced, I guess, entrance system, that it kind of appears and disappears. I mean, it's some very mentally gymnastic kind of stuff you got to do there, but there are people that claim that they have seen it, that they have actively investigated it. So I think you're muted there, bud. Oh,
It seems like there should be, I don't know, more actual like scientific research going into this if there's, and I think that like maybe, I was trying to find the guy's name. I mean, it could be Arthur C. Clarke, but um, anyways, doesn't matter. But yeah, it just seems like there should be more like research going into it, I would think, and I don't know, maybe
but what about this? What if there is and we're just not aware of it? I mean, that's
well,
always
that's another thing.
you can always take that conspiratorial thing. Yeah.
That's like with the aliens, right? Like they supposedly really know about the aliens and
There's a lot of interesting stuff that came out last year about aliens, though. I mean, it's
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
No, no,
a
no,
lot of
no.
very
I know.
yeah, yeah.
I wasn't even like saying that it's not true. It's just
Oh
that's
yeah,
what like people. Yeah. The whole thing with the drones last year was pretty interesting. I don't know if you
that was
followed
wild.
that,
Yeah, that was wild.
but I mean, I'm pretty good with detecting videography and and photos and stuff. And it's like because I do it myself, and then also even with AI, and I'm sure that
Mhm.
there is AI now that could fake that stuff, and there will be, I'm sure, a ton of that in the future where it's just like you just won't know what's real or what's not with the AI.
Yeah.
But the videos that I was seeing, I was like, these look pretty real. Like it looked like somebody just out with like their you could tell their hand was shaking and it was like
Oh, yeah.
real. And some crazy looking drone flew by, and I was like,
Yeah.
that's not any type of normal commercial drone. That's like a crazy looking thing. So I don't know what your thoughts on those were. I don't think anything really ever came out about it, right?
No, it just kinda, like I remember it was, like, super hot, like, all summer last year, right? It was, like, everywhere, and then it just kinda stopped 'cause I know at one point they were over, so where I lived in Southern Ohio when I was a kid, there is an Air Force base called Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and if you ever start reading in Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, it is a very, shady place. Um, the to kinda give, like, a Cliff Notes version is there's a lot of evidence and a lot of, like, theories that Area 51, have I assume you're familiar with Area 51.
Yeah.
So, the kind of, like, the big theory is that Area 51 is a smokescreen. It's kinda just a excuse me, it's just a thing to distract people from what's actually happening. It's this big, mysterious, base, and it's everyone knows about it, but no one's supposed to know about it thing. It's supposed to be the most top secret place in the world, but everyone knows about it. So there is a lot of evidence that Area 51 is just like smoke screen, nothing, it's just a regular military base that they just kind of make seem a lot more important than it actually is. But Wright-Patterson Air Force Base here in Ohio is the real Area 51, is the theory. Um, and even like, Roswell, the Roswell crash, infamous Roswell UFO crash, the ship, if you read into the Roswell stuff, the ship was never taken to Area 51. It was never transported. It was taken instead to Hangar 18, and Hangar 18 is located in Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. So when I was a kid, like growing up in near Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, our skies, like if you looked up at night, no matter what day or what time of the year it was, you would look up in the sky and it was just light. The sky was so active at all times. I mean, flashing lights, things zooming by. I mean, it was insane. Like it's one of those things that only people in Southern Ohio will get. But you can look up in the sky any time of night if you live near Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and there's so much going on in the sky. Um, and with the drone stuff, I mean, I would have to believe, like, because the drones came over Wright-Patterson Air Force Base eventually. That happened, like, so me working in the airport industry, that was a big deal for me. It was the drone stuff because it was in a sense affecting my industry because airports are having to shut down air traffic because you can't have planes in the sky while you
I mean,
have
that's
unidentified.
that's legit.
Yeah,
That's the thing is was like that's no joke. Like when you're
exactly.
because they won't let like random people fly over. If you do, you're
No.
fucked. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So it's like,
there's so many
yeah,
restrictions on drones, and I think they
yeah,
have a way to, like, track drones, don't they? Like, if you were to
yeah,
fly your drone in, I think they can, like, pretty much pinpoint who it belongs to, like, they trace a signal or something, if I recall.
yeah. Like they're supposed to have. I actually have like a DJI drone, and
Mhm.
I've been into drones for a while, and they're supposed to be able to track it. And even if they couldn't track it, I mean, I'm pretty sure if you're flying over an Air Force base, they're gonna figure it out. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
pretty quick, and you're gonna get fucked. Like
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
that's kind of like when I knew that something was going on. But anyways, sorry to cut you off.
No, no.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I remember when it flew over Wright-Patterson Air Force Base got hit with them, and that was a big deal because being in the airfield industry and also being in Ohio and, being so close to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, like, it was a big deal for us. And, the people I knew, I work with a lot of people at airports. I have a lot of people that I know that work at big airports and talk to on a regular basis. and no one knew what was going on. I mean, you would talk to these people who worked at these giant airports and Air Force bases, like Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, which is it's so much more than just a little air base in Ohio. Like, it is insane. This isn't like top secret or anything like that, but like it holds a doomsday plane for if the it's where the president flies. It's the plane that takes the president in case of like nuclear war. I mean, that's common knowledge. There's like 5 or 6 of those around the United States. So, I mean, it was like no joke when you would talk to these people and no one had an idea what was going on. And it just kind of went away. It was insane how it was like all this stuff and everyone's freaking out. Then it's like gone. No one, and like, what happened? No one knows.
It's weird, yeah. And like the normal me would be like, oh, it's just bullshit. Like people are faking it, and but one, the flying over the Air Force or flying over the that was an Air Force base, right? But
Yeah.
um flying over any type of airport, like they were flying over what was the one LaGuardia, I think is
Yeah.
LaGuardia.
LaGuardia. Yeah.
Is that like the main DC one or something,
Yeah.
or
LaGuardia.
that's like the main kind of like presidential one almost, right? Like
I
where the
think,
president probably flies out of.
I think so. Uh, I think either that or Reagan.
Yeah.
Yeah, LaGuardia is a huge airport, though. I mean, it's massive.
So that with the videos and the all that, I was kind of like, wow, this seems pretty weird to me. You know what I mean? And then I know like Joe Rogan has on like a lot of like he has on a lot of people I don't agree with, but he had on like one guy who was like some sort of I'm not sure exactly what he like some sort of military expert on one of those guys who I don't know if you've watched any of Joe Rogan stuff on it, but like he'll have the guys on like he had one guy on. I think it might have been Schaefer or something. I don't know if you know
Mhm.
about that guy, Lieutenant Schaefer or something. I
Okay.
think is that. Do you know who that is?
Doesn't ring a bell, no.
Do you watch Joe Rogan stuff at all when he talks about this kind of stuff?
Depends. Yeah, I think Joe Rogan's one of those things. Like, it's kind of like it depends on who he has. I mean, I definitely not an every episode listener, but if he has someone interesting enough, I'll tune in sometimes. But
Because he seems to be in he's into this type of stuff, and I'm not like I said I'm not like super into him or a lot of the stuff that he has to say, but with it when it comes to this stuff, like he had the main guy who originally came out about UFOs and like
okay.
I'm also forgetting his name. You would definitely know his name. Do you know who I'm talking about? Like the main guy from like maybe 70s or 80s. He like went in and like
Oh, Bob
saw
Lazar.
exactly. He had Bob Lazar
Yeah.
on, and Bob Lazar seemed like he didn't really want to be there. Like he was like actively kind of like I have a headache, and the other guy was like, come on, just like get through this or whatever. It's important, and he gave his story, and you're kind of like, why would this guy just be making this up like his whole life? You know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah. Well, I mean, he makes quite a bit of profit off of us. So, I mean,
Oh,
there's that.
you
But
think so? So I mean,
I mean, I wouldn't say I don't I don't like doubt Bob Lazar or like I guess I'm a skeptical believer is what I always say. I'm always open to other things, and I do kind of find myself being a pessimist sometimes. Like, I'm always like, yeah, I if someone says like, oh, why would Bob Lazar do this? It's well because he has a bunch of movies and books out. That's probably why. But I mean, also not to say that he didn't that this isn't real stuff. I mean, there's an explanation for most things, but I
well, the
definitely don't want to sound like I'm just doubting him because he is a guy that I do believe or am interested in a lot of things he has to say.
yeah, I would almost assume like you would be the type of guy who would believe him because you believe in this stuff. But that's good
Yeah.
that like you do. I'm sure you do fact check, most people. But
Oh yeah, you
I
can't
I
believe it
don't.
all.
I'm sure like Bob Lazar probably makes a good amount of money, but I don't really know if like he's actually made like his own. Like maybe they use him in their documentaries, but I don't think he's like making like has he even wrote a book on it or anything? I
Oh
mean,
yeah, he's wrote a book and
oh, he has.
he uh he has a whole like series of movies. Um there is Undisclosed, which is the big one. I think that's on Netflix. There's a couple. He has like there's like a trilogy of movies he has out, and they're pretty
Okay.
big documentaries. But I think he also works. He has like a network. It's called Gaia, Gaia, and it's like an online thing. I know
Oh,
you can
I've heard
like
of
get
that.
it. Yeah, I think he's like part of that. I know he's like featured a lot on it, so maybe he's just featured on it, but I think he's involved with Gaia somehow.
That's almost kind of, I don't want to say crazy, but like, isn't that kind of like out there, kind of
Oh,
Gaia's kind of out there stuff?
it's fringe. Yeah, they do some they have some pretty wild stuff. I've never looked too much into Gaia stuff because I mean a lot of it does seem pretty out there, but um I think it's like a one of those like Amazon subscription site like channels. I think like you know how you would like subscribe to like Paramount Plus on like Prime or whatever, and you'd have that channel. I think that's what it. I think it's one of those things. Like you pay like 7.99 or 9.99 a month or whatever, and you get access to all these like documentaries and things like that. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think they have like some hit. I think it's like hit or miss. They might have some good stuff, but I've seen a lot of like kind of like crazy out there stuff. Which you know, I try not
Like,
to be. I try not to like dismiss anyone's beliefs. But I mean, some stuff. You know, I've always said you got to be selective about what you believe in. Otherwise, you can't believe in everything because
yeah.
then what you do believe in means nothing if you just believe in everything.
Yeah. For some reason, when I think of the Gaia, I could be wrong about this. I'm thinking of almost like the ancient civilization type, kind of almost like energy type
I think
stuff
they do use a
too,
lot of that stuff.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause I know Gaia is like that term is like what the spirit of mother na like, earth
Yeah.
spirit is what it is, like,
That could be what I'm thinking of. The Gaia hypothesis is basically a belief that like the whole planet, I think,
has a
is
soul or something like that, yeah.
or is like is basically like alive or
Oh,
whatever.
okay.
And it's, I mean, I'm interested in all this stuff. I'm extremely interested in like in consciousness.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, what I was gonna say about the original guy, well, there's also another guy named Lou Elizondo. Have you heard about him at all? Like,
Yeah.
it just seems kind of like whenever I hear from this guy or other people like him, and this is one thing I like about Bob Lazar is he wasn't doing this, like he wasn't bullshitting. He was just, he almost seemed like he didn't want to be there, like I said. But with Lou Elizondo, whenever I've seen him go on stuff, and I even think that Joe Rogan sniffed out kind of bullshit from him because he's always like, oh, something like something's
Oh,
coming,
yeah.
like we know this, that, and the other, but I can't tell you, but it's gonna come out. But then it never does. Like you hear it for years, and
Yeah.
but anyways, yeah,
I
the other guy that was on real quick was, he was like some sort of like legit military expert who like flew the jets or whatever, and he was like saying the drones are pretty serious, and he was saying this happened, the same thing happened last year, and then nothing became of it, and here we are again where something happened and nothing came of it. You know what I mean? It's like
yeah.
nobody's even asking questions. But anyways, I don't know how much longer you want to go. I know it's like late there, so if you want, we could wrap it up, or yeah, I don't know how much longer you want to go.
Um, yeah, we could start making our way there. I mean, I'm not in a rush to get off, but we can start making our way toward the end, however you wanna go
Okay.
about it.
Because I mean,
But,
I could go off on all
I
this
I
type of
can
stuff, but
yeah.
I don't want to like prolong this too
No,
long. So
you're good, you're good. Speaking of weird cryptids, of course, there's like Bigfoot and things like that. Have you ever heard of? It's a very it's like Ohio's cryptid. So I mean, it's a lot of states have like their unique cryptids, like New Jersey has Jersey Devil, West Virginia has Mothman, things like that. Everyone has Bigfoot. One of the more unique Ohio centric cryptids we have is the Loveland Frog. Have you ever heard of the Loveland Frog?
I mean, I may have heard of it now that I think of
Okay.
it, but I don't know much about it.
The Loveland Frog is which by the way, there's a fantastic Loveland Frog Festival that takes place every year in March in Loveland, Ohio, which I would highly recommend if anyone's in that area check out because I was there for the very first one when it was just a small group of people in uh, a hotel conference center, and now it's like a 3 day event that takes over the entire town. So, um, but the Loveland Frog was this cryptid that was saw. I think it was seen in the 50s or the 60s. This patrolman was out on like a night patrol, driving around Loveland, Ohio, and he stops at this bridge because he sees a giant. I would say giant, but like a 5 foot tall upright frog run across the road, holding in its hand a glowing wand. and that is the Loveland frog. And they and it became just this like phenomena. It's I have a I have a print of it on my wall. I have a few things of Loveland frog around my house, but it's like kind of like our cryptid. I would say it's, if you're talking cryptids, it's probably one of the lesser ones I actually believe in. It's one of the ones I like, but liking and believing is two different things. But yeah, I wanted to mention that at some point because I know you're not from Ohio, so I always like to clue people on the weird stuff that happens in Ohio with the Loveland frog we have.
So there's the grass man and the Loveland frog. Those are the two main ones.
Well, we have quite a bit. I have a friend. His name is Star Cruiser as his Instagram handle. Um, Great artist. He's out of Baltimore, and he's doing a series of art pieces where it's basically states, and he documents all the cryptids and weird stuff. And I have an Ohio one that he got me. Um, and Ohio is such a weird state. Um, People call it the heart of it all, and it really is. When you talk about cryptids, it really is the heart of it all. We have the Mothman. There's been Mothman sightings, in Ohio, Southern Ohio. Grassman. We have Loveland Frog, of course. We have Bessie. Bessie is Lake Erie, which is our big lake up north. There is a plesiosaur type creature that's been spotted in it, named Bessie. We have the Puckwudgie. The Puckwudgie is a very small, kind of like foot and a half tall troll type creature with a bow and arrow that will take after you if you're in the woods alone. It'll try to hunt you down, I guess. I have a friend's dad who claimed to have seen one of those when he was a kid. Um, we have the melon heads, which are these supposedly these. There's a sanatorium up north in Ohio that's been long abandoned, but there was some weird like stuff took place in it. Like it was kind of one of those seedy sanatoriums in like the early American history where people were getting like lobotomies and shock treatment, things like that. And it's closed down. It's a very big haunted hotspot. But the theory is that there was a scientist there who was doing these experiments on kids, and the result of that was these kids with these gigantic melon heads, these giant bulbous heads, and they killed him and they escaped into the woods, and they just kind of live in the woods. Or these small child-sized creatures with these gigantic bulbous heads. Um, we have the Dog Man. The Dog Man is very prominent in our kind of our region, Ohio, Michigan, Indiana. There's a lot of Dogman sightings. Dogmen are basically like Kentucky is very hot with Dogman sightings. Dogmen are kind of these like humanoid werewolves, basically werewolves, but not werewolves. There's like humanoid wolves, and they're kind of what people equate a lot of missing people to. They're supposed to be like far more vicious and savage than what a Bigfoot would be. Um, we have devil monkeys, which are these devil monkeys, these demon monkeys that hunt in packs, and they will attack small animals, and they'll attack your car at night. Uh you can tell I'm very into this stuff, and I can talk about it a lot. Uh
Yeah, I mean, there's so many of them. Like
yeah,
it's
Ohio's it's so fat. Ohio has such a rich history with this stuff and unexplained. I mean, Ohio has a little bit of everything. Um, Here I am, 35 years old, talking about how much I love Ohio. I know when I was 18, I was like, I can't wait to get out of this fucking state. And now here I am, just like singing its praises about how much I love how weird it is. Never thought I'd be doing that, but man, we have a little bit of everything. A lot of paranormal, a lot of UFO stuff, tons of cryptids. It's
it's one of
insane.
those states that like I just don't really know too much about. Like it's kind of like I guess would be there's certain states I just don't. like
Yeah.
Ohio, Iowa, like Idaho. I think like it's just like I don't really hear too much about it. What town did you grow up in,
The
Ohio?
town I lived in was called Cynthiana, Ohio, and I don't know if it's probably a blip of a map. I mean, it's so small. Like I said, we had one general store, we had a post office, and a church, and that was it. Like that was the town. No stoplights, no Walmart, no Target, nothing like that. No restaurant. We didn't have a restaurant. It was we had a pizza place that was also the gas station. So you'd get a pizza from there, maybe rent a movie if they had movies that day. But yeah, it was a small town, very small, but in the middle of nowhere.
Was it
Um,
close to that Air Force base, or are you close to that now?
no, it was close to the Air Force Base.
Okay. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
because you
it
could.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of my first, like, I guess, something I would do like a lot. Like I know my dad would, sometimes he'd go out on the porch and just sit in his chair and just like look up, and then like we just sit there and stare, and you just see like lights all over the sky, just boom, 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 all over. You see things streaking by. It's wild. I
But you
imagine it's
don't.
still the
Do you think
same.
they could have been like planes from the Air Force base, or no?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But I mean, it was just so much activity. You got to wonder, like, it's one of those things you start to think, like, is there something going on? Because then you sort of hear all the rumors of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. That's the main thing. Is like there's so much lore around it and so much like hush and whispering around it. It is more than an Air Force base. People, um, it's kind of one of those things. It's like a fact that everyone knows, but no one really comes out and says it. But I mean, people that live around that area, like we all know that there's more going on there than what it actually is, just because we're there. We see what happens. We see the things getting taken in there on tractor trailers and stuff like that. So I mean, it's far more than an Air Force base. But
You've
um,
seen that, or like
oh
you've
yeah,
seen.
we've there used to be like pictures and stuff online. People all the time will post on social media like big things covered up going in the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. I mean, things coming out. They'll they'll drive out these black trucks and stuff. I mean, a lot of stuff going on there. But I mean, also Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is an interesting thing. There's all this secrecy, but yet you can take an elementary school field trip there. So it's very interesting.
How long did you live there in Cynthiana?
Uh, I lived there till I was 18, and then I moved a shorter distance away to a slightly smaller town, a slightly bigger town. I mean, where we had a Walmart. And then decided I want to advance my career, and I moved to Columbus, Ohio, which is the capital of Ohio, the big city, and that's pretty much where I call home now. And I think I'll probably be home for a while.
I mean, did you like the small town? Because like, there's something about the small town desperation thing that like I'm kind of into. Like, I don't think that I would be into it if I actually lived there. I think that I would be bored. But like when I watch, I didn't even watch all of it. My fiance watched that football movie where it's like a really small Texas town and like they play footballs are the only thing
Varsity
going on.
Blues,
Well,
Varsity
Varsity
Blues.
Blues within the TV show.
Yeah. Oh, Friday Night
Friday night.
Lights. Friday Night
Yeah,
Lights. Yeah.
there's something about that kind of vibe where I'm like, it would be kind of cool. Like, I kind of feel like this. I don't know. Like, there's something about it that's like cool. Like, I would think that I would like. Did you like it or
Well,
not really? Obviously,
I
you got out, but
I tell you what, like it was like when living there sucks, but when I was in high school and I had my buddies, and I got older, and buddies had cars, like that was fun. Like we had no troubles. I mean, it's very much one of those things where like the sheriff knows your family, so you can go out and drink and all that, and they'll just tell you to get home or whatever. And that was very fun. Being able to kind of do that. But then you decide you want more, and there's like the problem with living in a small town like Ohio, like Cynthia Ann, was like you would either be a farmer, which sucked. My dad's a farmer, and it sucks. Or you would maybe get a job at like a trailer factory. There was like a horse trailer factory, like uh outside of the town. You maybe get a job there and work in the horse trailer factory, or you would drive like 2 hours to a town where you would maybe work at like a slightly bigger factory. So there was that whole thing. But you know, my partner and I, we like to go like thrifting and antiquing. That's just like a hobby of ours. And every now and then we'll kind of venture out that way. You know, I live about 2 hours away from where I grew up. Where Columbus, about 2 hours away from Cynthiana. But we'll kind of make our way down there, just kind of because I know there's like a lot of junk and cheap stuff down there. So we'll kind of make our way down there. And I do have like, now that I'm older and I've lived in the city and stuff, I do kind of like a greater appreciation for that kind of lifestyle. Like I could see myself maybe one day um, living out there, mainly because the cost of living is so damn cheap. Especially when I live in the city now and I know it's like $30 for a pizza. But I know I can go down to Cynthiana, Ohio, and get like a pizza for like $10, and also like probably pay $150 for rent or something in some like cheap apartment. So I mean,
Do
like,
you think it would really be that cheap?
no, I'd say probably about $500. I would say, which is a hell of a lot less than I pay now. So
Yeah.
I can see that. I can see, and like for a while, before I moved to Columbus, I bought a house in Chillicothe, which was the slightly bigger town I moved to, and I owned a house, and my mortgage was $540. That was my mortgage, for
Wow.
a house I owned. And of course, that was 2019, 2018, that around that time. Um,
Not even that long ago.
but I know like if I was to buy a house here in Columbus, which I have a townhouse now, but I know if I bought a house now, I mean, God, I'd imagine like $1,500 probably. fifteen
Yeah.
hundred, 2 grand for a mortgage, so I know I could probably go back out there and get like a decent sized house for like probably the same amount, but it'd be a much larger house with land and things like that. So I do have an appreciation for it now. I get the idea of why people liked it. I get why my dad like lives down there. I get why my sister lives down there. I get it. I mean, my sister's a teacher and my brother's a nuclear engineer. So I mean, they make more than enough money and they live very comfortably in this low income area.
But I mean,
Um,
the only bad part about it is like it's cheaper, but like there's nowhere to work, right? So like, does your
yeah,
brother have to like drive far to go?
yeah, he has to drive a little bit. But my sister works at the school that we went to school at, which is cool. Um, yeah, he has to drive far, but you know, they make it's worth the drive, as I
Yeah.
guess would be the thing.
But I mean, in
But
general, it's like those places are cheaper, but then it's like you said, there was in the town, there's like nowhere to work, so it's like
yes,
there's kind of like trade off. But there's a I live like I'm not even like really close to like LA. I grew up in Orange County, and now I live in the Inland Empire. I don't know if you know at all
I've
about
heard of
Southern.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm about an hour and a half or an hour and a half east of LA, so I'm not in like a big city, and I'm pretty far out. But then if you go further, there's like you probably know like Joshua Tree National Park.
Yeah.
Um, there's a town there called Joshua Tree. Then if you go further, it's like 29 Palms, and there's just something about living kind of on the outskirts that's interesting to me. And I don't know if it would be like I don't know if I don't think the word would be like the coziness of it, but like it's probably just slower and more mellow.
Oh yeah.
But then also like bringing it back to like the cryptids and the aliens and stuff. Like you were seeing, you probably see a lot more stuff out there. Like
Oh,
if you live way out in the middle of nowhere, you're going to see more stuff in the sky
strangeness.
and
Yeah.
strangeness. And if you get, yeah. And that's interesting. So, bringing it back to like that, are you into would you say you're more into the cryptids than the UFOs? Or are you kind of into both? If you want, we can wrap it up, I guess, on like one or the other.
Um,
Um,
I'd say I'm a little bit into both, but I think probably the easier one for me because I think I believe in aliens. Like I full heartedly believe in aliens. Cryptids is one of those things that I want to believe in. I kind of use them, I guess, as kind of this conduit for my need to or my need to satiate the idea that we that there's more out there than what we know. You know, I think there's so much mystery, and I just want to believe in something extraordinary. And I think cryptids are just that peak that they really pique my interest. Aliens, I fully believe in aliens because I just I can't fathom the idea that there's all this space, for lack of a better word, out there, and that we're the only ones like here. You know, but I mean, cryptids, I think I have just a passion for because um it's the idea that there's all these people that have seen these things, and I can't believe every person that says they see a Bigfoot is outright lying. Like I can't believe that. You know, I don't understand. I don't. That's not something that I believe. Is that these people who, yeah, I'm sure there is a majority of people that are saying it because they want to be featured on a podcast or a newspaper, or maybe get a guest spot on some schlocky History Channel show. I mean, I'm sure there are people out there to do that, but I think it fascinates me that there are these creatures like the Loveland frog. I mean, that people, you know, these people have seen, you know, a police officer. Why would a police officer randomly just say, "Hey, I saw a giant frog with a magic wand"? Like, what is that going to do for your career as a police officer to just make that up? You know what I mean? Like, why is that something that this guy decided he wanted to tell people? Um, why are there? You know, I have a buddy of mine whose dad claims to saw a puckwudgie, and he didn't know what a puckwudgie was until I told him, "Oh, that's a puckwudgie."
What is the
Um,
puck? What is the puck
uh,
wedgie?
a puckwudgie is like a small, like kind of like troll creature, like an elfish kind of creature we have here in Ohio, or you know, people claim we have it here in Ohio. And it's a very small, like mischievous, kind of like troll, gnome, elf kind of thing, and it will just chase you. It like kind of hunts you. It has a bow and arrow, and people have claimed to see him like as far back as like settlement days, that people would be walking in the woods and they would stumble upon like something would jump out of the bush, and it'd be the little puckwudgie with a bow and arrow, and it would chase them, and he'll shoot little bows at them and stuff. And I had a buddy of mine, like me and him were talking, and his dad, who was like a very honest guy and like not someone you that just made up stories, he just told us about how like him and his friend when they were kids, they were in like this park, this little national park we have, and down where I grew up, and that they were walking and they heard like a noise in the bush, and they turned around. This little thing came out and chased them. He called it a pygmy, is what he called it. He said this pygmy came out, like chased them, and they just ran and ran. They got in this car and drove off. And I mean, it's stuff like that where I'm like, I just don't believe that people like. It makes you wonder, like, what did he see? Like, why would he tell us that? Like, and I'm sure it's like maybe, oh, I want to give these boys a story. I'm gonna, you know, kind of fuck around with my son and his friend and tell him this wild story that I just came up with. You know, I mean, there's stuff like that. I mean, absolutely. But it just fascinates me. And you know, we talked about earlier in the episode about just all the different cultures and stuff that have these Bigfoot legends, and it's something that I'm passionate about. Sure, they could just be stories, but I think that that's also important too, is to keep these kind of stories alive. Um, I remember reading once someone talking about like we will never be able to prove Bigfoot's existence until we kill a Bigfoot and someone brings a body forth. And I remember reading that, and to my to that, I have to say, like, I would much rather just not know if there's a Bigfoot. Like, I don't think that would be that's the proper way to prove something exists, is by killing it. Because I also think that if there are Bigfoot creatures, there's probably not a whole lot of them left. So, yeah, that's my little tangent on cryptids, and just it's a very weird thing. I really have like a passion for these creatures who may or may not exist.
Yeah, yeah, it's really interesting to me. I don't know. I mean, if I was into it, I think that I would have to like, yeah, I don't know. And it sounds like you are doing this, and a lot of people are doing this, but I would really have to like research for it to be true. It's like
Yeah,
I know people who believe in like are really into like conspiracy theories and Alex
Mhm.
Jones and all that kind of stuff. And it's like,
Hey,
for,
don't tie me in with him.
no, 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 no. I'm not. I'm not. I'm just saying that
Uh,
like in order for me to kind of like
uh,
believe the stuff, I would like really have to kind of like um study it and research it to the point where like I felt like it was true, as opposed to just kind
mhm.
of like taking it in the information. Yeah, I'm not trying to like compare you to them. It's just
No,
conspiracy theories in
it's
general are another thing where I think that there's like obviously Alex Jones is crazy, but like there's conspiracy theories that some of them have turned out to be true, and some of
yeah,
them,
absolutely.
but like if you get carried away with it, like, and that's like the only problem I have, like when if you bring up like so many of these things, it's just kind of like it's tough. And I also kind of like wonder too, like what is it stemming from? Because I tend to believe the people who are bringing them up. Like I don't really want to like discount. Like if somebody, especially a close friend or a family member, tells me they saw something, and I don't think that they're bullshitting me. Like I would want to believe them, and I do. Even people on podcasting, I believe them.
Mhm.
But I'm kind of wondering, are they just misseeing something? Could it be
Yeah,
some sort of
absolutely.
like psychological thing? Could it be some sort of um I'm even thinking of like something like maybe like the ancestral memory thing kind of is interesting to me. I don't know if you know about like,
Yep.
yeah, I mean I don't really personally know too much about it, but we have all these like weird kind of like I was saying in the beginning, like the memes or the archetypes or whatever, like in our mind where it's like I think even like at a young age, like you almost have like this fear of monsters, and it's like you don't really
Yeah.
know exactly what the monster is and where does the idea come from.
It's
Like
like
it must kind of come from somewhere, right?
right, like, I know I talked about this once on me and Bailey's podcast about, like, but, like, even as, like, a kid, like, if you were to be, like, 4 or 5 years old, and you had never seen a horror movie in your life, you'd never seen read a scary story, and you were to be out in the middle of the woods and just looking into the darkness of the woods, like, you would have an unease, like, you would have a fear of that, and
Yeah,
it comes from, I think, when, us as, like, a species, when way back in caveman times where, if you're looking in the darkness, there's a saber-toothed tiger about to, chomp your throat, that kinda stuff, and I think that's carried over for us for generations.
yeah, for sure. And it's yeah. Um, and then like even like walking around like your neighborhood, if you live in like the suburbs or whatever, even walking around your neighborhood can be kind of creepy. And there's this like
Yeah.
we feel kind of I think we feel this sense especially when you're like closer to the big city. We feel this the closer and closer you get to the big city, I'm sure like the further away from these kind of cryptids or monsters or whatever.
Yeah, here we
And
say we're about crackheads and stuff,
yeah, exactly. There's
but
that. Um, but like, um, but you always have this. Oh yeah, you. I think that you think that like, oh, because I'm living here in this like neighborhood or I'm
yeah.
surrounded by houses and people, I'm fine. But there's still like something kind of
The
like out
unknown.
there.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
unknown.
and it's like I'm one movie that I actually really like that I don't think many people. I don't think it hit hard with people was like The Village. I don't know if you
Mhm.
ever saw The Village with M Night
Yeah, kinda let me down,
Show.
yeah.
Oh,
Kinda let
did
me
it?
down. Yeah, the ending, yeah. I mean, I like the idea, the whole concept, but then,
See,
like, that twist.
what's funny about it is I think that I like the as soon as I remember I when I first saw it, I liked the twist. I was like, oh man, this is all like a setup, and um, I don't know. I guess that's the thing is it's kind of like trying to figure out if this is a setup to me, the psychological aspect of it, maybe like with Bob Lazar or
Uh,
whoever. It's kind of like, is he fucking with us or not? And like trying to figure that out. And to be honest with you, when it like I was saying, like when it comes to somebody like Bob Lazar, I do tend to believe somebody like him. There's other people who I don't, but like
yeah.
with that guy, he doesn't really seem like he's bullshitting. He's had the same story for so long.
Yeah, and I
Um,
if you wanna look in, like, Bigfoot stuff, I mentioned him earlier, um, look up Jeff Meldrum, like look into some of his stuff. It's very interesting. It's a super interesting way because this guy is like he's a college professor. He's an academic. He's learned. I mean, he's not this crazy guy talking about Bigfoot. Like he takes a very methodical, scientific approach to it, and it's super interesting because it's not what you would expect. When people talk about cryptozoologists, I think they just picture these tinfoil hatted guys rambling about monkeys in the woods, but um, it's super interesting because he breaks it down. Like he has like I hazard to say evidence, but he has like his theories and his hypothesis on what these are, and it's super interesting because he's taken this like scientific academic approach to it. Like I don't really know. I keep repeating that, but I mean, um, I would definitely check out Jeff Meldrum.
Was this the cryptozoology guy who like works at like the
Yeah, he works at I think somewhere it's either like California or Washington State, maybe Oregon State. It's one of the like the northern corridor, northwest corridor, one of the big colleges there. It's a state college, either Oklahoma or Washington, or no, sorry, Oregon or Washington or California State. It's one of those, but he's a very prominent figure because he gives so much like credibility. He has like credibility. It's it's very interesting to hear him talk.
so this is like a legit scientific study that he teaches like at a college basically.
I don't know if he teaches like Bigfoot class at college, but I think he definitely like he
Cryptozoology in general.
yeah, he's very into it, and he takes um a very formal approach to it, which I think is interesting. He's not just after hearsay and conjecture. Like he wants to like the grassroots bare bones science of everything. So it's very interesting.
Yeah. And what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, and there's I mean, isn't there like I feel like I've heard like I don't really know the answer to this, but like aren't there kind of like new I feel like there's like new species. I don't know how often this is happening, but like there's new species kind of like arising like through via evolution or whatever. Like
I read a thing. There's like a couple dozen species like discovered a day, but I mean it's not like we discover a new wolf or something like that. Like it's like very minute things. Like oh, it's like a caterpillar with an extra set of limbs that only lives in this region of the Congo and stuff like that. Things like that. But there are like constantly like new species being discovered, but just a lot of them are like not like I said, it's stuff like that. Like oh, this fish that lives in this one reef in the Caribbean has an extra gill than the what should that kind of thing. But I've read there's like just new species on a daily basis getting discovered.
yeah. I mean, that's a good amount. So if you think about that, there's a few every day getting discovered. There really could be species out there that, especially under like the ocean. I don't know
Yeah, oh
how
yes,
into like the ocean stuff. I
very.
mean, I'm sure there's like a ton of crazy shit down there, and I think that most of the cryptids, like Loch Ness monster, come from lakes, right? I don't know if are there cryptids in the ocean.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a rich history of the kraken, sea serpents, megalodons, just and there's a infinite number of these creatures that either were thought to be extinct or unidentified. Um, the ocean is like a very big talking point for people who believe in cryptozoology because the kraken was for a long time the giant squid was just this like fisherman tale that people would kind of like, oh, there's a giant squid, but now there's physical and video and photographic evidence these things exist. After just centuries of people just kind of laughing it off as this like make believe story. There is
So they
a
finally actually found the kraken, which is like a giant squid.
giant squid. Yeah, the giant squid. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess Kraken. When you think of Kraken, you think this gigantic sea thing that's taking down ships. But no, like the giant squid, like that is like that's scientific. They found tentacles. They found a dead one. I think a few years back. Um, They videotaped it. It's on video evidence. There's photographic evidence. There's a lot of evidence on whales. A lot of whales will have sucker marks on them that are just gigantic, gigantic sucker marks. But yeah, I mean, that's a fact thing. I mean, that's scientific. That's textbook now. After just
The megalodon. Actually, what's funny is I think I just did a video on the megalodon. Isn't the megalodon not? It doesn't exist anymore, right? It's like
it's
it's
extinct,
extinct.
yeah. But
Yeah,
there are people that claim that they're real. They've
they're
seen
still
them.
around.
Yeah, they've seen them. Yeah. The Marianas Trench, that's a big one. Even Steve Alton and the Meg books and the Meg movies, Jason Statham. That's kind of like the basis for those. Is like in the Marianas Trench is where they could be, which uh, depending on how you look at it, maybe could be, could not be. There's a very famous story, the Charles Darwin, when he was mapping the ocean, the Challenger, I think was what it was, the USS Challenger, the not the USS Challenger, but the SMS HMH Challenger, HMH Challenger. The ship he was on that he was using to map the seafloor. They dredged up a megalodon tooth that was still white, and that's not possible. Fossils aren't white; they're that off brown or cream color. But he supposedly dredged up a white megalodon tooth, which would mean it was a fresh tooth. So
So they literally still are able to the the teeth are still around, like when they're doing this research. But it's like with it, like I've just recently been doing some like dinosaur videos, and I'm just part of me is just kind of like, are they real? I mean, are they really finding all this like these? It just seems crazy to me to be like this dinosaur lived like 25 million years ago or whatever, and it's like how are they able to do that? And it's like
yeah,
I mean that's like a magical science, you know what I mean?
mhm.
To like literally get it down to like
Yeah, megalodon teeth
25 million years.
have been found, like, but they're fossils. They're teeth, but they're fossilized teeth. So they would be, you would find a tooth of a megalodon or something like that, but it would be a fossil. It'd be a brown fossil. Um, but but the ship that Darwin was using to map the ocean
Yeah.
was dredging up things as they were mapping the ocean floor, and they supposedly pulled up a giant shark tooth that was white, which would mean that it was non-fossilized, which
Wow.
would mean that it was fresh. So, and that was near the Marianas Trench where they dredged that up. So,
Yeah. So I mean, originally it's been 2 hours now, but originally I
yeah,
wanted to kind of like cover all the cryptids, even though I know there's a lot, and I know we did actually go over a good amount, and you went
yeah,
over the Ohio ones. If there's anything else, cryptids or anything else supernatural or whatever you want to go over real quick. Um, One thing I wanted to ask about though was the like the Tic Tacs. And then I've also heard about, I think on Joe Rogan's podcast, I bring up Joe Rogan all the time but it's like um I feel like I heard somebody go on talking about like the something ranch or something,
Skinwalker.
Skinwalker Ranch,
It's a wild one.
cattle decapitation.
Cow mutilations. Yeah, that's uh a big UFO, a big aspect of ufology. Um, Rancher, and that's super interesting because you like there's photographic evidence of these mutilations, and they are insane. I mean, it's like it's bizarre. I mean, I don't necessarily like looking at them because I have a thing with like animals, but um, if
And
you
we
look
have
at
no
them,
clue how this is happening, right?
there are theories. One of the best theories I've found that I could, like I said, I'm a skeptical believer. I'm a believer first. I would say I'm a believer first, but I do have the ability to second guess things because, like I said, you can't believe in everything, otherwise your beliefs don't mean anything. If you just believe in everything, you have to have that
I
point.
agree, yeah.
But there was a study did, like, I remember, because a lot of things with cattle mutilations is they have these like puncture marks that are so precise. Like, it's, if you, like I said, if you ever take the chance, if you ever decide you want to look into them, you can find these pictures, and it's surgical. Like, there are these surgical incisions, like fine, like like perfect incisions. And but I seen a study, and a guy also recreated it with like a balloon, where if you were to like wrap a put a balloon inside another balloon, okay, and you fill it with water, you fill the inside balloon with water, it stretches the outside balloon as well. And you were to poke a hole in the outside balloon, the empty balloon, and keep filling the inside balloon with water, you would see that hole that you poked in the outer balloon start to open up, and it would open up and just create this like perfect like slice. It would just kind of follow the thing and make it like it looked like someone took a scalpel and made this perfect incision. And the idea is that these cows die, they get some sort of like a predator, like a bird or something like that is like, cuts them, and their body fills with gases and expands, and thus creates these incisions, these marks of like incisions. So that's super interesting. I can kind of see that, but a lot of these cattle mutilations, what makes them um, so compelling is that these cows are alive one day. The farmer comes out to check his pasture the next day, and it's dead, and it's drained of all its blood. Um, yeah, that's what makes them so compelling. Yeah.
And then is that what happened on? I forgot exactly what it was with Skinwalker Ranch, but is that what it was?
Skinwalker has all kinds of stuff. Skinwalker is like a hot spot for UFO activity. It is dogmen are prevalent in Skinwalker. Paranormal activity like ghosts are prevalent there. Orbs, these mysterious glowing orbs will take.
Where is it?
Well, people see them.
Nevada or?
Yes, yeah. I think yes, Skinwalker. I think it's in Nevada, which would be interesting too, because it's Area 51's in Nevada. So
And then what about the Tic Tacs?
Tic Tacs are interesting. Those are UFOs. That's what was. Those were talked about a lot during the disclosure hearings last year. Tic Tacs were talked
Yeah,
about a lot. Yeah, those are interesting. So I mean, it makes no sense. How they can move the way they've been videotaped moving. I mean, I'm sure you've seen that video that the Air Force released, right, of the Tic Tacs, right? Have you seen that?
yeah, yeah. And
It
I listened to most of that. I mentioned the guy's
Yeah,
name, Detective Sergeant Schaefer. I
yeah.
don't think you had heard of him. I would
I I
recommend you to go listen to him.
I'll check it out, 'cause I listened to that as well. I must have
Oh,
just
okay,
kind of
okay.
skipped on it, but, and I got a really
You're just kind of over it, or what?
I think I just kind of like I don't know if I retained his name, but I have a
Oh,
really
okay.
good book I read, or I'm reading right now. It's called, what is it called? Shoot, I got off of Amazon. I'm in the middle of reading it right now. I just started. I can't remember what the name of it is, but it's basically covering all the disclosure stuff. It's kind of just like breaking down everything. Super good book. I can't remember what it's called though. Let me pull it
Well,
up
didn't they
here.
come out at some point last year and basically the government basically said like we know or we have proof that UAP, now they call them UAPs, right?
Yeah, UAPs.
UAPs
Yeah,
like exist, like or something. Like they kind of came out with the fact that like we know that there are aliens or something
yeah, and
amongst
I
us,
think
but like nobody
and
really did anything about it. It's just kind of like, oh, okay, and everybody
and
moves
and
on.
and they were implying during that hearing too that we like reverse engineered alien technology. Like that was a big thing.
Which is what the other guy, the main
Bob Lazar.
Bob Lazar was saying that they were
Yeah,
doing, right? Yeah.
because he supposedly worked on those projects. The book I'm reading right now is called Imminent. The Pentagon's Hunt for UFOs, and
Who
it's
wrote that one?
that is by Luis Elizondo. Like
Yeah.
I didn't know I didn't recognize the name, but yeah, that's who wrote it.
Because what's funny is I recognized the name of that book, and it must have been when I listened to him on a podcast. I mean, he is an interesting guy, but like I was saying before, the way he was coming off was kind of like
I know what you mean. I I hear podcasts where people talk like that all the time. I know that's a big thing that political people will do, like political conspiracy people will always do is like it's coming, like something's happening, it's going to
Yeah.
happen, and it's like 6 months pass, and it was really funny. There was a guy that I had on Facebook for a while. He was like from my hometown, and he was super big into politics. Um, and he would constantly like post things like he was like a kind of a shit poster kind of guy. He was like really big into Reddit and stuff, and he'd always post these like wild things. He was very big into like far right fringe politics, and he would always post these things like, you're all gonna be laughing come Tuesday when this comes out. And then like Tuesday passed, and people would kind of troll him on his Facebook of like, it's Wednesday morning, like where's this at? And then like he would post
Yeah.
later, like a few months later, like just wait till the 15th. All this is gonna change, then nothing will happen. Like the forums are, I heard on the forums, you heard it here first. The
Was he
September
intentionally
3rd.
shit posting, or was it he
No, no,
believed what he was saying?
he believed in that stuff. Yeah, but he would like
Yeah.
shit post, like troll people, like um people who like, you know, I don't talk politics much, but he like troll people that like maybe support Biden or Hillary or Kamala. Right? He would troll those people, but he was like very big in right wing politics. And he would always post like far right, like fringe stuff.
Yeah.
But he would all time post these like things of like, something's coming out, it's gonna shake everything to the core. It was really funny, but I know the kind of guy you're talking about, Luis Elizondo. Like I get so turned off when I hear like someone talking about like it's coming, like things are about to change. It's like, just put it out now. What's up with the hype? Like, what do we just put it out now if something's coming?
Or
Um,
remember the whole like 2012, like the end of the world was
oh
being
yeah, I
like
remember that.
predicted by some, was it like some
The
like,
Mayan calendar.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think I
Good
had a
movie
friend
though.
who believed that and made like a bet or something, saying it was going to be true. What do you think about the community as a whole, though? Like on Reddit, like I'm assuming like what how big is like Bigfoot subreddit? Like how many people are on something like that, or what is the main
Oh,
subreddit?
yeah, it's r/Bigfoot. That's a good one. I need to get more involved. I was really big into Reddit a few years ago, and I just kind of got off of it for whatever reason. I like, no bad experience. I think I just got like kind of distracted, and just one of those things where you forget to check Reddit one day, and then becomes 2 days and 3 days, and then next thing you know, it's you
It's
forget
hard
you
to
have it downloaded.
keep up. Is
Yeah,
I mean, it's like one of those things where like I wouldn't even. It's like one of those things I can't really check because there's so many different subreddits, and it's impossible to keep up with unless you're like just keeping up maybe like with one subreddit or
yeah.
something. Like it's impossible to like. It's like too much information coming. You know what I mean? To like follow for me.
And I just started getting back into Reddit just because I wanted to kind of get on some podcasts and kind of promote my book and stuff. I knew that was a good route to take, is to get on Reddit and kind of, make connections. And I think also it's kind of like Reddit kind of punishes you if you don't use it enough, because like even your messages, I like didn't get your messages on Reddit. I had to go like check Reddit. It wasn't feeding them to my feed. I think it's because it kind of like punishes you for not spending all your time on Reddit. I think is what it does. Because I was like,
Oh yeah.
I got your email where you were like, hey, let's start recording. And I went and checked Reddit, and I seen where you had messaged me like
Oh,
twice.
luckily I
Um,
emailed you. Yeah,
you did, yeah, because
because
I
no,
totally.
yeah, there are times where I'm like, I hope they get this. I hope they see this. You know what I mean? Like,
So now I gotta be better at checking my Reddit, because I have made some good connections on there in the last couple weeks when I post on there, but I gotta just kind of get back into it, because I really do like Reddit. I think it's a good place to you know share experiences and people with similar interests. I think is fun. But yeah, there are some weird parts of Reddit. But r/Bigfoot, I used to be really big on that, and that was always fun. But it would be a lot of people posting anonymously of claiming they've seen Bigfoot and things like that, and that's you got to kind of sift through the bullshit. But again, I'm not one to ever like out front dismiss someone when they say they see something, but I think it's more about just kind of determining what their intention is what I always look for when I'm trying to believe someone. I want to know what their intention are. Why are you telling me you saw Bigfoot? Are you
yeah,
is your ploy to get like a book deal out of this? Or are you trying to be the TV movie of the week? Or what's the deal here? But
yeah.
yeah,
I gotta go to the bathroom and then we'll wrap things up. Is that all right?
yeah, that's fine.
All right, thanks. Hey, we're back. Yeah, so
Yes, sir.
I had like I'll get like random posts on Reddit which it thinks that I want, and Most of the time, I probably don't, but sometimes they get it right. And this guy went on under YouTube marketing, or not YouTube marketing, YouTube partner to YouTube. Um, and he was like basically like gave this like long thing saying that like YouTube basically you can use bots on YouTube. Like you can like he's the way it
Mm,
came off
mm,
was like very interesting because you're kind of like if you know this information, why are you telling it? But it was basically like he has two channels or more, and he's used bots to follow him and comment and whatever else. And YouTube basically doesn't care. Not so much that they don't care. I just don't think they can do anything about it. And he says he
yeah.
makes like 200K a year doing it.
Wow.
And like normally I probably wouldn't believe him, but I'm like, what's his incentive for giving this information out besides just kind of like why would he want to give this information out? But basically he like went through like detail by detail like how he does it, why he does it and all that. And the main reason is that YouTube can't really stop it because it's for one, it's hard to prove that it's a fake
Mhm.
follow, and then for two, if they did do something about it, like I could just ruin somebody else's channel by like sending bots their way,
Yeah.
basically. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where like we're kind of living in a world where an online world, and it's going to get like worse and worse, like I was saying before, like where we just don't really know what's true and what's not. And like people will think, oh, you have 100,000 views, but you don't really know if those are bots or like
Oh, yeah.
whatever.
The, yeah, I'm on Instagram a lot. That's usually the platform I'm on most. And, getting, Ty Alexander Wright's my Instagram, up to going 'cause I've done Instagram for years, and, like, I had, an Instagram for Cult Talk Conspiracy, things like that got up to a few hundred followers and all that. So now I'm, like, building, Ty Alexander Wright's up to be my new, main feed. And one of the first things you get when you start on Instagram, if you're trying to do that, if you're trying to do like a promotional Instagram, is you'll get hit up by these like bot accounts where it's like, uh, 15,000 followers for $15 or whatever. And it's just like bot accounts that they'll have like all of a sudden you go on your face, if you pay it, which I never would do because I understand social media enough to know that it doesn't really help you in the long run. But it's more of like an optics thing. They want, you know, I could see why people would do it because they think it's going to pay off. But like the idea is you would pay $15 or whatever, or however much they're charging you, and you would get all of a sudden 15K fake accounts following you. So then someone scrolling on Instagram sees, oh, this account Ty Alexander, it's got 15,000 followers. It must be an account I need to follow. But what you the downside of that is like, okay, you have 15,000 followers, but you have 50 posts that don't even get 2 likes each. You know what I mean? Like that would be like
Yeah,
that's what
yeah.
ruins the illusion. But I see why people who maybe aren't averse to how this stuff works buying into that and getting kind of scammed and stuff on that. But I mean the YouTube thing's interesting. That's pretty interesting way to kind of work the system, I guess.
Yeah, well, I think he was being honest because I messaged him to ask him questions about it, and he responded, and like he wasn't trying to sell anything or anything like that. It
Yeah.
was just like he just was. I'm kind of like interested in how like all this works. But anyways, the rate I'm
I feel like it'd be a lot of work too, like to be creating all those accounts and managing those bots. I feel like it'd be
well, it would be, but that I mean, that's a whole nother like subject that I would be interested in going into. But um, part of the reason I brought it up was just because on Reddit and on the internet in general, I was like wondering about like the Bigfoot community or whatever. It just seems like it's hard to know what to believe and what to not. So how do you find the community in general online? Like you said, there was a lot of people who like probably bullshit, but then it's kind of like hard to sift through the bullshit, right?
yeah, it seems like people kind of have a similar kind of take as I do as, you kind of gotta like be selective. I don't think no one I've never seen like anyone outright call anyone out of like, hey, you're bullshitting, but I think you just kind of choose not to believe that person. But I mean, you don't go it like, try to tear them down is kind of like how I've always looked at it. But I've never seen that in the Bigfoot community where someone like they actively take after someone unless they're like trying to, blatantly mock the community, like make, shit post, I guess, on there. I've seen that, but I mean, people make claims, and I think one of the things that I've kind of disliked as of late is just like the amount of like AI generated like imagery and stuff that I've seen. There's a popular like post that goes around on like Instagram and Facebook and things like that for Bigfoot, and it's a like new exciting photos of Bigfoot. It's very real looking. Like I can see why if someone wasn't aware of like the abilities of AI would see it and be like, oh my god, like they caught Bigfoot on camera. So it's like a Bigfoot type creature. They set it up to where it looks like someone is like taking a picture from a distance, and it's like a Bigfoot creature like wading through this like river. And I mean, it looks very good. But, like I understand AI, I work with AI, you know, I know what to look for. So I mean, I hate to see that stuff because nothing annoys me more than being on like Facebook and seeing like someone sharing AI images and not being aware that they're sharing AI images. That drives me up the chain. I hate when that I see that. Um, but yeah, I see a lot of that stuff in like these cryptid communities in general. It's just AI stuff in there. Like it's just it really just muddies the waters.
I think people probably view it as an easy way to like get money or clicks or whatever by like
Yes.
posting the and it's gonna be a problem, I think, with the AI. I think that they've kind of like, I mean, I'm assuming that like Google and all these open AI and all these big companies know what they're doing, but I feel like they've kind of let the genie out of the bottle with it. You know what I mean? Because I mean, it's gonna get to a point where YouTube and Instagram and everything is just
Oh yeah.
flooded with
Um,
AI, and you're not gonna know what to believe.
that's kind of something that scares me with my book. Putting it out is releasing it independently over Amazon. I know I'm like entering, a small fish getting into a big pond. I totally understand that, and I know it's like something I'm gonna have to like just it's a grind. I'll have to work for. And that's why I'm doing like the podcast and I'm trying to social media and all that stuff because I know it's gonna be a grind. But like I know when I was first writing Monstrous, like I had looked into like not like novel writing software, but novel writing programs to help me like stay organized because there are like these programs that you can kind of use and they'll like it's just organizational stuff. It help you. It's a place where you can keep your notes, everything like that. So I was looking into that kind of stuff until I eventually decided just to use Google Drive and just kind of create my own little office space in there. But in doing that, of course, the algorithm sees me looking for novel writing software. So it began to like target me with these ads, and there was an application that I still get ads for all the time, and I think it's called like Squibbler or Scribbler, I think is what it's called. But even like the advertisement for it's so blatant, where like the software is an AI software, and you feed it a paragraph, and it generates a complete novel for you based off that paragraph.
Oh
And
man.
I'm like, man, that is so like it like made me very uncomfortable because it's like how many if when I put my book on Amazon, like that's cool. I have my book on Amazon, but how many other books are out there that are just these like soulless like cash grab, like someone got this application and just like wrote Bigfoot horror book, and boom, there it went, and they just throw it on Amazon. They generate some shitty AI cover and put out there, and I have a big problem with that stuff. I don't have a problem with AI in general because I use AI at work, but I use it for things like Excel, like how do I do this Excel formula, stuff I don't want to do. Um, or math, I'll use it for like math equations, things like that. I have a problem with like AI being used to make money, like someone just like uh generate me an image of a cow dressed as a cowboy and then slapping it on a t-shirt and trying to sell it at a flea market. Like I have a problem with that. Or like
Yeah.
writing a paragraph in an AI program and generating a novel that you had no work at whatsoever that took you 10 minutes to do, and then trying to sell on Amazon to someone for $6 or whatever, you know? That's where I
Yeah.
have a problem. Or like Hobby Lobby. Are you guys you have Hobby Lobbies out west?
Yeah, we do.
They're if you ever go into a Hobby Lobby, they are AI is fully into Hobby Lobby now.
Oh,
AI
really?
AI art, yeah, it is gross. It's
Like you
like,
can tell like the
oh,
what like the is it like posters or like pictures or
posters, yeah, like their prints and stuff. Just it is disgusting. It's like that like no care taken AI, or like you tell they didn't even like quality check it. Just
yeah.
AI bullshit they put out. It's disgusting. I have a problem with that. And that's why when I wrote my novel, like this, there's no AI in this. Like I even the cover is like a completely original work. Um, because that's where I have a problem is when people use AI to try to make money. I have a problem with that, especially when it's soulless. Like I get it if you write your novel, if I wrote this whole novel and I just did not have the time or the money to get a cover, sure, I get that. But just soulless AI stuff, I have a big problem with. It irks me really bad because I see
Yeah.
that, in being in Southern Ohio, we have flea markets, and going to these flea markets and seeing these like people that make uh tumblers and whatever, the drink cups. There's tons of those that are just these like god awful AI images they print on these things and sell them to people for like $10. These people that don't understand AI images and don't understand that they're buying an AI piece of art, like that just it annoys me so much.
Yeah, the only reason why I'm kind of it's a one of those double-edged swords for me. Well, first of all, can OpenAI do what you're saying Scribbler can do or Google Gemini? Like, are those at the point where they're like they can literally write you books? I know, like when I use them, it just does like when I use them, they do like paragraphs or whatever. Or like,
Yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
mean,
Because I
is
mean,
this one beyond kind of OpenAI, like where
it
it's
claims to be like in the because I said I get targeted ad all the time from it, but it blatantly says it makes a point to say like it's better than ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever because it's specifically for novel writing, which I don't really know what it means by it's specifically for novel writing. Uh, but I mean, I get it. 'Cause I mean, AI is a great tool. I think it's a fantastic tool. Because I even used it when I was writing my novel, like to help me through writer's block. I mean, I never had it write anything for me, but I would say like I'm at a point in my novel. Here's this, this, this. I need to get these characters here. What are some ideas? And kind of help it through my writing block. I get that. Like it's a powerful tool, but I just could not imagine having AI write your novel for you and being okay with selling that to people. And I would hate to
yeah,
be one of the people that's duped into it and like realizing because I can't imagine it. I've worked with AI enough. I know AI is very obvious when you're reading AI stuff. Like I can tell AI from a mile away because I use it a lot and it's used in my industry a lot. People AI generate emails to me. I mean, AI generated manuals. I mean, I know what to look for. I can spot AI from a distance. I can taste it. I know what I'm looking at AI.
what AI do you use?
We have at my company, we have our own AI. It's a chat GPT, but we have a closed AI. I don't know what you'd call it, suite, I guess, an AI suite we have. But then also chat GPT. I mean, chat GPT is what I use mainly. And I used it for as a tool. That's why I use it as. One thing that I did with it that helped me out was my characters in my books. In my book, I had it generate pictures of them that I just saved in my Google Drive as like a visual element for myself to like kind of picture these characters better in my head. So I would get my descriptions, and that's just for me to use for my writing, just so I have like a visual of what this character looks like that I can you know put in my head.
Yeah, but I mean, how long do you think before it's like right now it's to the point where you can tell and I can tell, but how long
Oh,
before
try
it
not too
gets
much
to a
longer, yeah.
yeah? I mean, we're getting to the point where you're not going to know. I don't know
Mhm.
how a couple year, maybe even like a year, a couple years. The thing is with the AI is like it's kind of like a double-edged sword where obviously you can use it for bad, but I feel like for a lot of people like who don't have like the money to
Oh
like
yeah,
you might want to make something but like you don't have the money to do it, you can use
absolutely.
AI to help. And it's like if I like I'll make like YouTube videos and I'll need like a picture
Oh
and
yeah,
I just
absolutely.
don't have the picture, so I'll like yeah, I'll create like an AI picture. But I think the thing is
And
you as long as you're being like transparent, I guess. Like
exactly,
I wouldn't imagine like writing like a book with it,
and putting yeah,
but like using it to help you because you don't have a picture or whatever, I think
absolutely.
is
Because I mean,
fine. Writing a
when
book though, yeah, I think that it almost seems like it should be like a law for you to be like this was written by AI or something.
I
You know what
think you would
I
have to.
mean?
'Cause, like, even when I did cult when we did Cult Talk Conspiracy, of course, a thumbnail for a podcast, I mean, if I wanted to you're not always gonna find an image you wanna use, so I would use that for all generate a thumbnail, but I also edit it myself, I generate an image, but I'm also adding to that image. I'm going in, I'm recoloring things, I'm fixing things that I've noticed that the AI didn't get correctly, I'm adding my own fonts, my own words, things like that. I can never see myself just using just an AI thing and, like especially not a book and then putting my name on it that I wrote it when I just generated a AI prompt, wrote an entire novel for me. I couldn't imagine it. It just blows my mind. But I know that that's something I'm gonna have to deal with when I get onto Amazon, is just there's gonna be a bunch of stuff there that I have that my book is gonna be just, like, lost in. It's gonna be I gotta make mine stand out, and that's why I hope that just the quality of it stands out, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So do you believe in like ghosts and stuff like that?
N That's a weird thing for me. Aliens, yes. Cryptids, yes. Ghosts, not so much. I don't really have a belief in ghosts. I don't know. I can't explain it. My friend Bailey, it drives her nuts. Who I hosted Cold Talk Conspiracy with, drove her absolutely nuts. Like I believe in so much stuff, but I just cannot. I don't know. I don't believe in ghosts. I guess I can't explain it really. Just not one of those
Well,
things I believe in.
I would assume like you could probably explain it by saying like if you don't believe in any type of if you're not religious, then you
Yeah,
and
that
you
would yeah.
like if you believe that like when we die, then you know you're just dead and like your spirit doesn't like come out or whatever, then
Right.
that probably explains it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
What's the key for that you have there? Is it for like
Uh
some secret
No, I found it at people I always I need to come up with a better story because people ask me all the time, and it's like, "No, I found it at an antique store, like, 10 years ago, and I just liked it, and I put it on a chain." That was what it was. But, like, everyone always asks me, like, "What is it? I need to come with a better story." Like, I was scuba diving in Aruba or something like that and found it on the
yeah,
seafloor, like, I need to find something better, but no, I just
or it's some like you have a cryptid like
yeah.
somewhere hidden away or something, or like I don't know, like
I need to tell people I can't tell them. That's why that would drive people nuts,
yeah.
honestly,
Oh yeah, I can't tell you.
yeah, I don't wanna talk about it.
Yeah.
That would drive
S-
people nuts.
So as far as the cryptids and the UFOs, you just said you don't believe in ghosts. What are some of the cryptids you believe in, and then that you don't? What are some stuff that like maybe you think that people should stay away from when it comes to this kind of stuff because you just think it's BS?
Um, I mean, Bigfoot, I mean, obviously number 1, but, I mean, I don't really know if there's any I would stay away from because of their BS. 'Cause I think there's even a cryptid, no matter how wild and fantastical it is, I think it's always worth looking into because I think underneath all of it, there's some thread of reality there. There's something to believe in, and I think even just as a story, they're great. 'Cause, I mean, that's something that's very important to me is storytelling, and I think just looking at cryptids in that aspect, they're just great stories, and that should always be celebrated in some way or at least cherished, even if it's bullshit. I mean, there's something charming about it. There's something extraordinary that someone saw this thing that maybe they're the only person that's ever going to see it, and I think that I don't really think there's anything that people should stay clear of when it comes to cryptids. But I definitely do think you should just be picky about what you believe in. 'Cause, I mean, there are some things that not everyone's going to buy into. There's cryptids I don't buy into, but I don't steer clear of them. I still enjoy them for what they are.
So pretty much all cryptids look into UFOs too. Would you say?
Yeah, UFOs, same. 'Cause I mean, one of my favorite shows of all time, and the character is X Files, and the main character in there, Fox Mulder, is my just one of my favorite characters ever. You know, it's someone I really connect with, that I idolize, that I just love. And there's the famous poster from X Files, the "I Want to Believe" poster. It's like iconic. It's part of the iconography of the X Files. I want to believe, and I think there's a lot you can interpret from those 4 words. I want to believe. I think there's a lot you can get from that, is because you know, the way I always interpret it is I want to believe because I want to believe. Like, I want to believe in these things. I don't have to have scientific proof. I don't have to have photographic evidence. I don't have to have an experience myself. These are things that I choose to believe in. Like people believe in religion. It's kind of similar, I guess, as religion. I mean, people believe in what they believe because they want to. I believe in cryptids and UFOs because I want to. I want to believe there's something extraordinary out there. I want to believe that there's something unknown, there's something unexplained. Um, but yeah, it's much like cryptids. I mean, UFOs, look into them, because I think the only thing the worst thing can happen is you look into it and you say, okay, this is complete bullshit. And I don't want to look into this anymore. I think that's the worst thing can happen. Uh, or you look into it and you say there's something here, and you kind of gain a little more knowledge, you gain a little more experience, and I think that's what we should do, is always be curious.
Well, I almost think that the worst. I don't really want to say it's the worst thing that could happen, but because in a way, I think it's good for certain people. But it's like the. I would almost think the worst thing that would happen is like I look into it. There's no way of finding getting any information that I already have, and just kind of like hitting my head on the wall just because I can't move forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Uh,
Um,
I will have to wrap it up here. I gotta my
yeah, yeah,
dog's
yeah.
ready to get out here, so
All right, all
afraid
right,
to
all right,
go
cool.
somewhere.
So yeah, so we'll wrap it up with one thing I wanted to bring up
Yeah.
um was podcasts that you listen
Mhm.
to. And then also okay, so let's just do it this way. Obviously plug your book. Your podcast isn't still going, right?
No, but it's on YouTube. I
Okay.
definitely implore people to check it out, because it was a labor of love, and that's where I credit a lot of. I wouldn't have Monstrous, my novel, if it wasn't for Cult Talk Conspiracy, because Cult Talk Conspiracy really helped me discipline and like hone um my writing abilities to where it needed to be, so I could work on Monstrous. Um, because we were it was a bi-weekly podcast, but we were writing every week because we recorded every week. Even though we was only putting an episode out every other week, we record every week, that we were constantly ahead.
So it
And
was like it's kind of like a scripted podcast that you had to like
uh
write for it.
no, no, it wasn't scripted. Like we is off, but like we had to write our subject. You know, if we was doing an episode on Bigfoot, I would write my episode. Of this is what I'm talking about in Bigfoot, or UFOs, whatever it may be. But that helped me gain that discipline and understanding, because the podcast, the way I always looked at it, was I was telling it was a 3-act movie, is what a story I was telling people. There was 3 acts: a beginning, middle, and an end, and I had to take the audience through those acts. I had to give them a beginning, I had to give them a middle, and I had to give them a finale to the episode, and that helped me kind of understand storytelling, and that helped me in Monstrous, my novel.
How did the podcast do?
Good. I mean, we did really well. We had um pretty solid audience. We had a lot of people we talked to regularly that were fans. It was fun. Uh, we just kind of other things came up. Me and Bailey were still really good friends, best friends. No ill will there. It's just she's a realtor, and it's a really good time to be a realtor right now. So she wanted to focus on that, and I really wanted to make this the year that I published a novel, so I wanted to make sure that I had time to do that. Because my fear was working on both a novel and the podcast at the same time, that they were both going to suffer. I was going to either focus more on the novel and the podcast would get a little lackluster, or I was going to focus on the podcast and the novel would be lackluster. So I needed to kind of focus my attention on one or the other. And writing a novel has always been a dream of mine. So I wanted to finally
Y-
get that.
Yeah. So one of my favorite podcasts was Yeah, but still, and one of the guys. Have you heard of that podcast by any chance?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, you have.
yeah, yeah.
Wow, I'm surprised
Uh,
you've heard of it.
yeah, but still, and then because I've listened to I think what I listened to him for something, because there was something I was researching.
Well, one of
I
the
forget.
guys,
Yeah, good.
you can think about it, but one of the guys from that podcast started another podcast called Otherworld. Do you listen to Otherworld, or have you heard of Otherworld?
I don't think so.
Well, that's surprising. I would almost think it'd be the other way. Because Yeah, but still is like a comedy podcast,
Mhm.
and then Otherworld is like a supernatural podcast.
Hmm.
So I just was curious if you've heard of that podcast, but I was listening to an episode where he surprisingly had like Elijah Wood on the podcast, and
Nice.
then another guy, and I guess they're both into supernatural stuff, and they have their own podcast, and they went. And I obviously believe like these two guys. I don't know them, but it's like Elijah Wood and some other guy that I believe. And they went to like Queen Mary, and then some other places, and they said that like legit like supernatural shit was happening. But anyways, they kind of got into like I don't know. I don't even know if we'll have take the time to like answer this, but as quick as an answer as you can possibly give in terms of consciousness, like what do you think is going on with consciousness in terms of
Man.
supernatural? Like if you're a religious person, you might say like the ghost thing is like the spirits from the
Mhm.
dead coming alive, or do you have any views on consciousness, what's going on supernaturally? Like we've talked about the multiverse thing. You don't have to make it long. It's just
I guess I would have to believe that what we're seeing is probably glimpses into like another dimension or glimpses into like another reality. I think would probably be what I would interpret it as. With my beliefs and my way of thinking, that's probably where I would probably land on, is that we're seeing glimpses in this, something beyond our reality.
okay, cool. So I'm curious to what you listen to Yeah, but still for. But if you think about that, let me know. Otherwise, plug your stuff, and then also anything you're into regarding podcasts, music, movies, TV shows, books.
Yeah,
I ask this just because it's like I'm curious to like what other people are listening to. I'm always looking for new stuff to
absolutely.
listen to. Yeah.
Um, as far as what I'm watching, Righteous Gemstones is probably my favorite TV show ever, and it's on the final season. That's what I'm watching currently. Um, I'm reading right now. On top of Imminent, I'm reading this. I don't have it here. Oh yeah, De-Evolu- De-Evolution by Max Brooks. It's a very good Bigfoot novel. Max Brooks is the guy who wrote World War Z,
Okay.
son of Mel Brooks. And it's fantastic. I think there's a movie coming out of it soon, or at least it's what the novel says on the front. Soon to be a major motion picture. Reading that. Um, and music wise, I just listen to Blink 182 religiously, even the new stuff that's not as good as the old stuff, but still, my favorite band of all time. I have a
One of my favorite bands
yeah,
definitely was like you said, I like the old stuff more than the new stuff. But you're into the new stuff though?
yeah, I like the new stuff.
Yeah.
It's not bad, but I mean, definitely the old stuff is not even up for comparison. But yeah, I got it like a in my man cave office area I'm at. I have like a big poster of the Enema of the State album cover, and then I got the Enema of the State, the CD. I got it framed, and also the American Pie soundtrack frame, because that was the first time I ever heard Muff was on um American Pie. That's me, or Mutt, sorry. Jeez, Muff. What was I saying? Mutt. So first time I heard Mutt was on American Pie. Uh,
Same
so
here.
that's why I
Yeah.
have that framed. There's like 2 CDs I have framed in my office randomly. And Enema of the State was the first album, the first CD I ever got. I think
Yeah.
I think I was 8 or 9 years old when that came out, I got a CD player for Christmas, a Walkman, and for some reason my dad bought me Enema of the State for whatever reason for a 9-year-old.
Wow.
And
That's
that was the
good
first album
gift.
I ever owned. Yeah, that was the first album I ever owned on CD. So it means a lot
Yeah.
to me. But
Yeah,
yeah.
I had a poster of Enema of the State literally above my bed, but it was like the one where like they were only in boxers,
Nice.
and I was actually gonna like take out um I was only gonna have like Tom in it
Uh-huh.
because Tom was like my favorite one, so I was gonna like cut out Mark and Travis and only have a picture of Tom in boxers above. Yeah,
Do you know Tom is a big UFO guy?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Pretty yeah, he's a pretty him and Bob Lazar do not see eye to eye.
Oh,
They are Bob Lazar is not a fan of Tom DeLonge.
oh, wow.
Yeah,
I would
because
definitely.
he doesn't like cuz Tom DeLonge is like getting what he's like involving like NASA and like the Air Force and stuff into his research. Like he's trying to get their involvement. And Bob Lazar is not a fan of that because he thinks what he's doing is he thinks he's being fed like fake information by them. Like they're kind of like puppeteering him and like misguiding him, kind of like things what his theory is. But yeah, Bob Lazar and Tom DeLonge do not get along, or I guess I can't speak for Tom DeLonge's opinion on Bob Lazar. Bob Lazar does not like Tom DeLonge, I guess is the main thing.
Wow.
Or
I
at least does not
definitely
like his research.
I definitely recommend listening to Tom DeLonge on Joe Rogan's podcast if you
Yeah.
haven't. I've,
Okay.
because you can tell Joe Rogan doesn't like Joe Rogan's such an idiot, but like for some reason he doesn't believe Tom DeLonge probably because he just views him as a rock star or whatever. So he
Yeah,
thinks he's
Blink
full of
182 guy,
shit.
yeah.
So he's kind of like um treating them badly the whole podcast, like skeptical of
Uh,
him when he's like he's so believing in other people, but with Tom DeLonge he
uh,
wasn't. It's pretty funny, and unfortunately, I love Tom DeLonge, but unfortunately, I don't think he's released. I mean, has he released too much
no,
information that he said he
no,
was gonna do?
no, no,
Yeah,
not really. He did a
yeah.
pretty subpar alien movie last year that was about the one thing I can think of. It's called Monsters of California. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah,
It
yeah. Did you
was
see it?
yeah, it kind of let me down.
Yeah,
It was very weird. It was a weird movie.
it didn't look great. I mean, it looked kind of amateurish, but I mean,
It it looked like the trailer looks a lot. The movie is just kind of convoluted. Like they throw like ghosts, Bigfoot, and UFOs all in this, and it's just like it's like convoluted. Like in the first like opening scene, the kids that were following these like teenagers, which are clearly like 30-year-olds, and like they don't even like try to like hide it. Like they're clearly like they're supposed to be 16, 17-year-olds, but they're like 30-year-old dudes. Like you can just tell they're not kids. But in like the first scene, they like basically prove ghosts exist, and then like that's never brought up again. And like halfway through the movie, they basically prove Bigfoot exists, and then never bring it up again. And then at the end, they prove the aliens exist. It's just like it's very weird. It's a very weird movie.
I didn't
But
know. I knew he was into aliens, but I didn't know he was into like Bigfoot stuff, like cryptid
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
Yeah,
I didn't know either. Yeah, but yeah, it was a big part of the or like a random part in the movie. They just randomly find Bigfoot, and yeah, it was weird. But
yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's basically what I'm into. Just Righteous Gemstones right now, watching, always listening to Blink 182, and then reading The Evolution. But yeah, my novel Monstrous, it comes out June 10th on Amazon. The ebook is up for pre-order right now on Amazon, and it releases on June 10th, the same as the paperback. Um, it is a cryptid fueled action adventure novel. So it's not a horror novel. So I've kind of been trying to press people is it's not a horror novel, it's an action adventure novel. Um, Big summer blockbuster type feel to it. Uh, sprawling adventure, very character driven, got a lot of heart, and it's definitely a passion project and a lot of hard work. Um, a lot of care. It means a lot to me. This is I believe this is the story I was always meant to tell because it stuck with me for so long. But it's got a lot of heart to it. It's not just a dumb um, monster horror film, as or horror book, I guess. One keep trying to press people, but it's a concept that I've had for a long time, and I just would love for everyone to check it out if they can. June 10th. Let me know what you think. If you do, follow me on at Ty Alexander Writes on Instagram, and also my website tyalexander.com, tyalexanderwrites.com. Sorry, where I post updates, and also I'm not sure when this comes out, but here soon on tyalexanderwrites.com, I'm releasing 2 exclusive short stories that take place before the novel, and they're 1,000 word. They're like less than 1,000 words each. They're just little short stories I wrote that kind of lead into the events of Monstrous. That'll be exclusive to tyalexanderwrites.com for free,
I
by the way.
guess like a Star Wars type thing, trilogy type thing.
Yeah, just these short, just a little shorts that kind of introduce a couple of the characters from the novel and kind of lead up to the events of the novel. And it's exclusive to my website for free, just for anyone to go in there and read and um, yeah, get excited
And
for the novel.
it's fiction. I think a novel means fiction, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
fiction.
yeah. So it's not like you trying to like prove it or anything. It's just yeah, okay.
No, no, just an adventure story, fun, a lot of heart, a lot of character, and just a passion project in every sense of the word.
Awesome. I have to ask you about yeah, yeah. Did you figure out yeah, but still why you listened to it?
No, I can't remember why. I cannot
Was it a
remember why.
was it a comedy podcast? It was
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
it,
It was like something. It was like I can't remember what it was like. Man, I can't remember. I remember I was researching something and like that came up on my feed.
that's interesting because it doesn't have anything to do with what I would think that you'd be researching. But anyways, yeah, the other guy's podcast is Otherworld. I'm kind of curious to what you
I wonder if I maybe have them mixed up.
maybe you do. I'm curious to what you think about Otherworld because it's doing pretty good and it seems like a pretty good like subject for podcasts. So,
Oh shit.
but anyways, I'll let you go. If you want, you can stay on after if you figure that out. But I know we gotta wrap up, right? So,
Yeah, yeah. I gotta
all right,
take the dog out for a walk.
all right. Thanks for listening,
Um,
guys. Thanks for coming on, Ty. I'll definitely check out your everything you got going on, your book and everything else.
I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me on, Micah. It's
All right,
been
bye,
really been fun.
bye, guys.